A hand caught the gourd. Emon Yen was startled. How did you recognize me? I used the Dark Knight race's stealth art. Emon Yen had gained a new technique recently while tomb robbing. It was the technique he was currently most proud of, and his efficiency in tomb robbing had increased immensely from it. He had been hoping to scare Long Chen with this move, but Long Chen noticed him as soon as he was a few hundred meters away. Long Chen smiled faintly. He had noticed Emon Yen because he had been adjusting his 108,000 stars, seeing if he could connect them to heaven and earth. That's because your wretched air disturbed me. Seeing his expression, Emon Yen immediately understood Long Chen was being sarcastic. Drinking a mouthful of wine, he spat out, "Wretch? Are you shouting your own name?" Long Chen shook his head. "Fuck, you're such a conner." Emon Yen laughed. "Long Chen, let me tell you about a certain something. Don't get mad though." "Why would I get mad?" Hee, this blessing came very quickly, so quickly that I'm unprepared. How do I say this? Emon Yen suddenly became bashful. "Damn, based on your wretched appearance, I'd say that you've brought calamity onto some family's younger daughter. What nonsense. Am I, Emon Yen, that kind of person? Fine, I'll tell you the truth. But first tell me that you won't get angry." "Tell me first," said Long Chen impatiently. "All right, that matter between myself and Yi Lingshan, I might be about to pull it off. So don't get angry." "Really? I don't believe it." Hee, I know you have some interest in her, but my attraction is simply greater than yours." But don't blame me for not being a good brother. After all, that flower had no owner and we have to use our own abilities. Wait. First, let me say this. I have no romantic feelings for Yi Lingshan. Heaven and earth can testify to that, with the sun and moon bearing witness. I also understand Yi Lingshan's character, and she is absolutely loyal to the Martial Heaven Alliance. She will not marry out to anyone. She has already married the Martial Heaven Alliance. Your only option would be to marry into her family, but considering your old man's temper, if you dare to consider it, he'll sever your 5 limbs. Last, and this is the aspect that I find most inconceivable, are you telling me that she is actually attracted to you? I always thought that she liked the kind of person who's steady and mature. As for you, I'm not trying to give you a blow, but I really don't believe it." Long Chen looked up and down Emon Yen, and then shook his head. He really couldn't believe it. Based on his rich experience, this boasting of Emon Yen's was very likely false. Hee, you're viewing me from the angle of a man, so how could you tell how attractive I am? Don't think that you're so attractive just because you have so many beauties. Let me tell you, each woman's eyesight is different. Yi Lingshan likes my type, so what can you do about it? Emon Yen laughed. Just look at this. You don't want to accept it? Well, too bad. Emon Yen took out a rolled-up little scroll. There was even some fragrance coming from it. It seemed there was something written on it. Do you see? This is the love letter that Yi Lingshan personally wrote to me. That smiling appearance of hers when she gave it to me, I will never be able to forget it in this lifetime," declared Emon Yen, taking a deep breath of the scroll's fragrance. That appearance gave Long Chen chills. He even got goosebumps. However, he was truly startled to find that this fragrance was truly the same as Yi Lingshan's. What was going on? Had Yi Lingshan gotten water in her head? Open it and look. Let me see just how amazing my brother Emon Yen's divine pickup abilities are. Long Chen wanted to see what Yi Lingshan had written. Am I a badass? Definitely a badass. Am I handsome? All right. What is all right supposed to mean? If your face was skinnier, it'd be better. You're saying I'm not handsome? Fine, I'm not letting you see what's written inside. Don't pull it, you'll tear it. Fine, I'll let you see. Emon Yen jumped, and only when he saw that Long Chen wasn't going to pull it did he slowly unfurl a corner of it. Even his hands were trembling. Why are you so nervous? Asked Long Chen. How can I not be nervous? Who knows what's written inside? What? You didn't even read it before bragging to me? You made it sound like you were about to get married tomorrow, you wretch! Raged Long Chen. Isn't it because I view you as a real brother and wanted you to be here when I read it? Emon Yen tactfully pivoted. Give it up. As I see it, you didn't have the courage to even read it. guessed Long Chen. Are you even my brother? Be nicer. Fine, let's see what's inside. Hopefully, the heavens will bless me with a beautiful woman. Mo Nian prayed before slowly unfurling it. A character quickly appeared, S. Not good, what if it says as if she would like me? Mo Nian's heart shuddered. Keep going, pressed Long Chen. If. The second word was if. Mo Nian was about to think about what it could mean when Long Chen grabbed at the scroll. Mo Nian hastily protected it. Don't rush me. Mo Nian slowly opened the rest of the scroll. Seeing the next few words, Mo Nian laughed delightedly. As long as you're well, it's like spring. Ha, Long Chen, do you see? The meaning is all too clear, ha. Mo Nian was so emotional that his whole body shook as he looked. Long Chen looked at the rest of the scroll. He had an urge to say something, but he didn't. Hee Long Chen, do you submit? Do you see? This is my attraction. Just because you couldn't achieve it doesn't mean that I can't. Why are you looking at me like that? Mo Nian finally sensed something off. Long Chen pointed at the scroll. Keep reading. There should be more. Mo Nian looked and realized that he hadn't reached the end. Continuing to open it, another word entered his gaze, thunder. Mo Nian was dumbfounded. As long as you're well, it's like spring thunder? Isn't this a letter of hate? Seeing Mo Nian staring at him directly, Long Chen hastily shook his head. Don't look at me. To use your words, the meaning is all too clear. You have failed. Mo Nian wilted, looking like he wanted to cry. He howled in grief. I spent so much effort on her though. I kept fighting despite continual setbacks. That kind of toughness should have allowed me to succeed based on probability. Could such a thing be measured by probability like that? Long Chen was forced to pat Mo Nian on the shoulder. If failure is the mother of success, then you might be infertile. Your comfort makes me want to die, wept Mo Nian. Brother, there's a good place of feng shui 3,000 miles northeast of the city. Face the south and look at the 3 bowls of water before you. The azure dragon is to the left, the white tiger is to the right. It's a beautiful place to be laid to rest. That's all I can help you with, sighed Long Chen mournfully. Wretch, raged Mo Nian. Are you shouting your own name? Long Chen looked at him disdainfully. I'm not talking about this with you any longer. Mo Nian began to walk away but was grabbed by Long Chen. Stop the act. I know you don't have the slightest sincerity in pursuing Yi Lingshan. Even I could see it, so do you think she didn't notice? You only did it to act badass and have fun. And don't act pitiful now. Tell me what your plans are for the future, said Long Chen. Mo Nian had always liked to be free. He definitely didn't want to be restricted, and so there was no way he could end up with Yi Lingshan. He had purely been joking by pursuing Yi Lingshan, and Yi Lingshan didn't mind playing a joke back on him. Things between them could end here. What could I possibly do? You're already so powerful. I have to hurry up and restore the 5-element sun hunting bow, or I won't be able to fully awaken my manifestation. I don't want you to get too far ahead of me. I'm also missing my family. I want to go back, and it just so happens I can bring a heavenly Dao fruit back to her. I suddenly find that she is the only one who treats me best in this world. Although she's fierce, I'm always in her heart, sighed Mo Nian. The her he was speaking of was naturally his fiancée, Lu Zhonging. Long Chen, do you think that women with the ing character in their name are vixens? Asked Mo Nian suddenly. Are you looking to die? Long Chen jumped in shock, hastily looking around. Only upon seeing that there was no reaction did he quietly curse, If you want to die, don't drag me down with you. This is the Martial Heaven Alliance. Ah, my mistake. I'll pay attention next time. Mo Nian also jumped upon realizing what he had said. If Chu Jianying had heard this, the two of them would definitely be beaten. That's called being unyielding and domineering. Such people are definitely perfect as friends. They'll accompany you through life and death, fighting alongside you. But as companions, well, it's alright. Long Chun could only comfort him this way. Thinking of the squabbles that erupted every time the old man interacted with Chu Jianying, he could only sigh sorrowfully. Fine, perhaps this is just my fate. I accept it. I'm going now. Let's meet again. Mo Nian rose. Yes, let's meet again, Western wretch. Long Chen also rose. Wretch. Are you shouting your own name? Once Mo Nian left, a disciple came to Long Chen to report that Chu Jianying was looking for him. That shocked him. She couldn't possibly have overheard it, right? Long Chen swore that if Mo Nian had conned him again, he wouldn't let him off even in death. What are you so nervous about? Chu Jianying looked at Long Chen oddly. Hearing that, Long Chen immediately relaxed. It seemed that he had overthought it. I was just nervous that you would beat me because of the old man's matter, said Long Chen. That old bastard, I've known him for the better part of my lifetime. If I got angry at everything he did, I'd have long since died from rage. I can't be bothered with him, snorted Chu Jianying. Inside, Long Chen thought to himself that while it was true that the old man's temper was fierce, Chu Jianying wasn't any better. They always had to have thorns in their words. Even if one of them had a good temper, they still wouldn't be able to get along over time. The two of them always blamed the other for their problems while never reflecting on themselves. For a person to look at themselves clearly was truly difficult. Alliance head, did you need me? Asked Long Chen. Yes. We have several things to discuss. Chu Jianying nodded. Why would you need to discuss things with me? You're the alliance head, and I'm just a little disciple. Long Chen smiled. Chu Jianying shook her head. Your tribulation and battle have shaken the continent. You slew your fellow peak geniuses, destroyed Heavenly Fate Island whose inheritance stretches back countless years, and even killed 2 island masters. You don't even realize this, but your influence might be even greater than mine. In just 10 years, the entire Martial Heaven continent might belong to you. So don't act so bored all the time like Mo Nian. You should bring out your charisma dash. Long Chen hastily waved his hand, already knowing her goal. That's enough, Alliance head. I don't have such aspirations. If I wasn't forced to, I wouldn't have stood out like I did. So don't try to use the name of all lives or the people to talk me around. The reason I am brothers with Mo Nian is because the two of us are both little rogues happy with just the basics. We're also very lazy and can't accept such immense responsibility. There's no way for me to compare to Yi Lingshan in that regard, nor do I wish to sacrifice so much. I see how you care for me because of the old man, and you see the trust one have in you. As we're so close, there's no need to mince words. I, Long Chen, am not that kind of person, so you shouldn't waste the effort to make me into that. Seeing Long Chen shake his head like a rattle even before she was done speaking, Chu Jianying couldn't help sighing. After hesitating for a long time, she had discussed it with the higher-ups of the Martial Heaven Alliance to consider making Long Chen the leader of the Martial Heaven Alliance. His rallying power was simply much greater than Yi Lingshan's. The leader of the Martial Heaven Alliance didn't necessarily need to be incredibly powerful, but they did need great charisma and rallying power, the ability to make others follow them into death. Long Chen was perfect for that, and when she had suggested it, the majority of people had supported this choice. But the 4 Grand Elders had immediately shaken their heads. Yan Nantian had told Chu Jianying to give up on that, saying that Long Chen would not accept being the alliance head. He was a wild horse that no one could subdue. He pursued freedom, something he would never have as the alliance head. As expected, even the position of leader of the Martial Heaven Alliance was unable to move Long Chen. Are you really not going to consider it? Asked Chu Jianying. I'm not jumping into that hole. I never wanted to be some savior of the world. I just want to live in peace with my wives. Fishing, hunting, having a group of babies, wouldn't that be a much better life? But you have a relationship with Sovereign Yunshang. The sovereigns were always the protective gods of the Martial Heaven continent. On their own, they pulled against the tide of destruction, saving the continent from a crisis. This is your responsibility. When I encountered Sovereign Yunshang, he never said anything about that. I feel like it's fine for me to be like this. You actually saw Sovereign Yunshang? The sovereigns were the strongest and most mysterious existences in this world. They had left behind countless legends but had then vanished without a trace. Some people said that they had died, while some said that they were hiding. There were countless guesses. However, Anyone who could obtain anything that a sovereign had left behind would be viewed as someone who would have amazing accomplishments in the future. Long Chen had actually even seen Sovereign Yunshang. In her shock, Chu Jianying completely forgot about her previous matter. Yes, I suppose. We chatted a bit and played chess. Then he gave me Evil Moon. He told me to eat and drink properly and maintain a strong body. He didn't mention anything else, said Long Chen. Nonsense, cursed Chu Jianying. She refused to believe that. Actually, the first part was true, but Chu Jianying assumed that Long Chen was hiding some kind of secret. After all, this matter was related to the sovereigns and couldn't be randomly talked about. It wasn't convenient for her to pursue this topic. Long Chen, I called you over to discuss things that are happening outside. Due to us refusing those opportunists and traitors, the majority of them have gone to Pill Valley's side, said Chu Jianying gravely. Yu Xiaoyun has once more made a move? Long Chen was surprised by this. Those people shouldn't be so reckless as to join Pill Valley that easily. Being refused by the Martial Heaven Alliance should have made them even more cautious. Chu Jianying nodded, sighing. When it comes to intelligence, I can't compare to Yu Xiaoyun. Perhaps you're the only one who can match him. Our sect leader is definitely not inferior to him in that regard, said Long Chen quickly, ending that change of topic right there. The sect leader he referred to was Li Tianxian. When it came to intelligence, the only one Long Chen admired was Li Tianxian. Yu Xiaoyun might be difficult to deal with, but that was only because of his position. If Li Tianxian was standing in an equal position, Yu Xiaoyun wouldn't necessarily be Li Tianxuan's match. With Li Tianxian in the Martial Heaven Alliance, there was nothing for Long Chen to worry about, so he quickly stopped Chu Jianying. Chu Jianying glared at Long Chen for a moment, feeling like he was a wily old fox who couldn't be conned. 3 days after we refused those people, Pill Valley sent out word that any disciples of sects allied with Pill Valley could enter Pill Valley's Brahma's secret realm for tempering, said Chu Jianying. The Brahma's secret realm? What damn thing is that? Long Chen was startled. Didn't Pill Valley only possess the Heaven Dragon Flame region? Where did a Brahma's secret realm come from? The Brahma's secret realm is one of Pill Valley's secrets. It's said that it is a legacy that their god Lord Brahma left behind before becoming a god. As for whether that's true or not, there's no way for us to know. There are countless precious medicines and beasts within it, and it is a sacred land to Pill Valley. Pill Valley was only willing to reveal this secret to steady their sides' hearts after they took such immense losses in the previous battle. One aspect is compensation to them, while another reason is to draw over people from the neutral side. As long as the neutral camp's people swear to never stand beside the Martial Heaven Alliance, they will also be allowed to enter the Brahma's secret realm. Yu Xiaoyun seemed to have countless moves up his sleeve. The Martial Heaven Alliance had only just won a victory when he made his next move, instantly stabilizing his side and even drawing in more of the neutral camp's people. Is the Brahma's secret realm really related to Lord Brahma? Is Pill Valley really willing to share their god's inheritance with other people? Long Chen frowned, thinking that this wasn't usual for Yu Xiaoyun. What about the sect leader? What does he say? Li Tianxian said that this move is very strange and that he can't see through it. However, this might be Yu Xiaoyun's only way to steady the hearts of the large factions on his side, said Chu Jianying. Lord Brahma's inheritance? Long Chen had an urge to go. He still didn't know much about the Pill Sovereign's memories. However, the intense disgust he had for Lord Brahma and Fallen Day Knight came from deep within his soul, and so they should be related to the Pill Sovereign's memories. The Pill Sovereign's memories had a close link to the 9-star He-Gem body art as well, but he knew little about either. If he wanted to figure it out, he had to go to the Brahma's secret realm. Has the Brahma's secret realm already been opened? Asked Long Chen. Not yet. They have announced that it will open in 1 month because they are still waiting for the Pill Fairy, their god's chosen, to fully awaken. They need her power to open the Brahma's secret realm, said Chu Jianying. Her. Long Chen's heart pounded hard. The warm smile of the Pill Fairy appeared in his mind. It made him think of past events. He couldn't help sighing. Why did she have to be Yu Xiaoyun's daughter, with Yu Xiaoyun being his mortal enemy? They would definitely have a battle to the death one day. It really was a case of fate toying with people. Apparently, the pill fairy has already reached the last step of her inheritance. Once she succeeds, she will become Pill Valley's divine daughter and will be blessed by the god's power. At that time, no one will be able to match her within the same realm. Perhaps this is one of the reasons that Xiaoyun retreated. You are currently unrivaled in the same realm, but his daughter might be able to kill you. In fact, your current fame might even have been boosted intentionally by him so that when his daughter kills you, Pill Valley will rise far above anyone else, said Chu Jining. Xiaoyun's scheming was extremely frightening. She warned him, you must be careful of the Pill Fairy. Once she becomes the divine daughter, her entire character will change. The will of the god will influence her mind. Don't think that your past relations with her will make it so that she won't kill you. I understand. Longchen nodded. He had heard a bit about this god inheritance. The so-called divine sons and divine daughters were servants of their gods. They were only loyal to their god. Sometimes, some things couldn't be avoided no matter what. Longchen was already used to it. The future would come no matter what. The news of the Brahma's secret realm rapidly spread thanks to Pill Valley's efforts. Practically everyone knew of it, and countless experts began to look forward to its opening. Originally, Longchen's tribulation and the ensuing battle that had resulted in the deaths of Ji Wuming and countless heavenly geniuses had greatly set back Pill Valley's alliance. Their morale received a heavy blow. Xiaoyun had even been told to scram by Longchen, and he had listened. Just as everyone thought that the Martial Heaven Alliance's rise was set in stone, while Pill Valley and the others would be unable to do anything to them, the news of the Brahma's secret realm caused the wind to change. The title of a divine daughter shook people's hearts. It was no wonder there hadn't been any news of the Pill Fairy for so long. So she was receiving a god's inheritance. The Pill Fairy had originally been a peak heavenly genius blessed by the heavenly Daos. If she had god power supporting her as well, using that god power to control the Brahma divine diagram and the day-night furnace, just who would be able to fight her? People guessed that the reason Xiaoyun had left under Longchen's threats was because he was leaving Longchen to the Pill Fairy. Regardless of the reason, the continent finally started to grow lively again. Pill Valley and the others no longer dared to cause trouble with the excuse of looking for Longchen. Even if Longchen were to walk down the street, no one would dare to touch him. As for the so-called arrest warrants that had been put out for him, those became an absolute joke. The Clearwind City returned to its original state. Countless people were walking along the streets, and small businesses opened their doors once more. Things were no longer so tense. Longchen was strolling through the streets with Meng Qi, Chu Yao, Tangwana, Cloud, and Lu Rian. They were looking through the marketplace. Other than Lu Rian, who was as icy as ever, the others were very excited. Cloud was especially excited, amazed by everything new to her. She held Tang Wanner's hand, asking questions left and right. Meng Qi and Chu Yao were holding Longchen's arms, smiling. It seemed that they had forgotten the feeling of strolling through the streets ever since they had stepped into the cultivation world. Longchen felt ashamed at this. By following him, they had spent all their time in cultivation and fighting. They had given him their best years, and now just a simple stroll was enough to satisfy them. As a man, this made him feel vexed. As long as you're by our side, it's a blessing. As long as you're well, it's like spring, said Meng Qi softly, seeming to read his thoughts. Good, there was no thunder at the end. Longchen couldn't help chortling. What thunder? Asked Meng Qi. When Longchen told them what had happened to Emon Yen, they laughed. Tang Wanner had to support herself or she would fall down laughing. Let's keep this matter to ourselves. If everyone learns of it, especially Guoran, Emon Yen will definitely bite me the next time we meet, said Longchen. Family shame shouldn't be spread. Just having the family know of it was enough. Longchen looked at Emon Yen. He knows how to write love letters to people. Why haven't you made any moves in that regard? You're even inferior to Emon Yen, teased Tang Wan. Teach love letters are so low grade, only used to trick children. I wouldn't bother with writing down my love for you. I'd rather show it to you in person. Longchen glanced at Tang Wanner's curves. That gaze of his immediately made Tang Wanner redden. She wanted to run, but if she avoided it, it would be saying that this was a weak point. She stood up straight and righteously said, "Pervert." Meng Qi and Chu Yao also blushed. Cloud didn't understand, while Lu Ruyan acted like she hadn't heard anything. Chu Yao, Meng Qi and Tang Wan'er had long since given their hearts to Long Chen. However, due to various reasons, they hadn't taken the final step. They had sworn to wait until Yijiqiu was with them once more. However, it seemed that reality had changed faster than that. More women had popped up by Long Chen's side, so now they didn't even know what to do. It wasn't as if this was an easy topic to discuss. There was still some time before Yijiqiu finished receiving the Divine Ice Palace's inheritance. However, once she was back, things would become awkward. "Hey, don't be so dirty-minded. I was just saying that after we finished strolling through the streets today, we can go see my parents and little sister," said Long Chen. Long Chen, Meng Qi, Chu Yao, and Tang Wan'er immediately became nervous, especially Meng Qi. "Don't worry, my parents are very nice. They won't make things hard on you," guaranteed Long Chen. Despite his comforting words, the three of them couldn't help being nervous. They weren't even in the mood to keep strolling. Just at this moment, a voice rang out from around the corner. "Guest, you are looking at my shop's supreme treasure, a true and authentic lightning dragon whip. Legend is that it was created by a lightning dragon's bones. The price is 2185000 spirit crystals. But it just so happens that this is the 500th anniversary of my shop, so if you want it, I can deduct 5,000 spirit crystals." Lightning dragon whip? Long Chen and the others were startled. The so-called lightning dragon was not a true dragon. It was actually a kind of snow lizard that lived in lands of bitter cold. Its spine was very tough and possessed powerful cold energy. When it was fully matured, it was a 10th-rank magical beast. Its spine could not only be refined into a weapon, but it could also be used as a precious medicinal ingredient. Long Chen looked over only to see one man in a store recommending a whip to another person. When he saw the whip, he couldn't help shaking his head. How was that a lightning dragon whip? It was clearly an ordinary lizard's spine that had been embedded with ice crystals. However, when he saw the person being conned, Long Chen laughed. It was actually Guoran. Guoran wouldn't fall for this, right? "It's clearly fake," whispered Meng Qi. As a beast tamer, she was clearer on that than anyone else. "I doubt it. Otherwise, Guoran would be too stupid," muttered Tang Wan'er. Guoran had originally been strolling the streets with an unpleasant expression, then someone had suddenly come to sell him something. He took a look at the whip. 2185000 spirit crystals reduced by 5,000 spirit crystals? "Do I look like someone lacking those 5,000 spirit crystals?" said Guoran disdainfully. Hearing that, the seller was delighted. "Ah, this little one misjudged you. It seems you're definitely Dash. I'm lacking 2180000. After saying that, Guoran lowered his head and continued walking. He had also seen that it was a fake item. That seller was dumbfounded, while Meng Qi and the others laughed. "Boss." It was only now that Guoran noticed Long Chen and the others. He walked over. Long Chen and the others had changed their appearances to avoid causing a ruckus, but those familiar with him could recognize him based on his aura. "What's going on? Were you beaten?" "You don't look good," questioned Long Chen. Guoran's appearance was very strange. "I've been very unlucky these past 2 days. The day before yesterday, I ended up falling asleep and having a nightmare. I dreamt a bunch of people beat me, startling me awake. When I realized it was a dream, I went back to sleep, only to dream of those people again. They shouted at me, 'You dare to come back?' And then I woke up again," sighed Guoran. Meng Qi and the others laughed once more. Long Chen wasn't too surprised. The Dragonblood warriors were all under immense pressure, and normally when they cultivated, there was no way for them to sleep. Only by drinking until they were drunk could they relax enough to dream. Although Guoran was already very powerful, his inner heart was still weak and cowardly, which was why he had such a dream. "That's not all. I also ran into something vexing just now," said Guoran. "But you didn't fall for the con?" asked Tang Wan'er. "Not that, something before that. There's a building, the spirit cleansing medicinal pools. They claim their baths can completely relax someone, so I went in, said Guoran. What? Was the pool not clean? Asked Tangwana. No, actually, let's not talk about it, sighed Guoran. Hurry up and tell us. It's annoying when people only say things halfway. Raged Tangwana. It's embarrassing. When I went in and asked the price, they said that the man's bath costs 100 spirit crystals, while the woman's bath costs 10,000 spirit crystals. I said that it was a robbery, but the host asked me whether I wanted to go to the man's bath or the woman's bath. After hesitating, since I've never been to a woman's bath before, I went in to take a look, only to see a pool full of men. They cursed me, cursing me for being another man and making them even more crowded. I was actually conned. Guoran covered his face pitifully. Now even Longchen laughed. Fool, you even jumped into such a hole. How can I be at ease with you leading the Dragon Blood Legion? It's not me being a fool, it's that they're too crafty. Tell me, what happened to people's integrity and sincerity? Clearwind City is a con. Cried Guoran. You deserve it. Who asked you to be a pervert? Good thing you disguised yourself first, or it'd be embarrassing if others recognized you, said Tangwana without the slightest sympathy. For men this is normal. Just don't fall for it next time. Longchen magnanimously patted Guoran on the shoulder in a consoling manner. I'm planning on leaving for a few days. Be careful and supervise everyone's cultivation. Don't let this victory get to people's heads. Our enemies retreated, but it's not a true retreat. They have only taken a single step back to accumulate energy for the next strike. Once everyone's had a chance to relax, make them focus again. Don't let them get drunk on other people's worship, said Longchen seriously. Although the Dragon Blood warriors were already incredibly strong, they were still young. Being surrounded by the disciples of the Martial Heaven Alliance and their worship, there was danger of them growing overconfident. If that happened, it wouldn't be long before the Dragon Blood Legion fractured. So Guoran, Guyang, and the others had to occasionally give them a blow so they continued to work hard. After giving instructions to Guoran, Longchen led the women onto a transportation formation. They went straight for the Grand Xia ancient nation. The capital of the Grand Xia was flourishing more than ever. Of the 4 ancient nations of the Grand Xia, Grand Chu, Grand Zhou, and Grand Han, only 3 remained. The Grand Han ancient nation had been destroyed because of Longchen. Standing in the capital of the Grand Xia, Longchen felt various emotions. Back then, he had been given the title of the National Protector, Great General Longchen. However, it seemed that he had left before even having a chance to pick up his salary. Past scenes appeared in his mind. The building over there had once been the Bloodkill Hall's stronghold. He had fought with Xia Luo against the experts of the Bloodkill Hall there. Hey, uncle, where is the Guangji Hall? A man that was passing by paused to ask Longchen a question. Go forward, and turn left on the 11th road. Past 3 bridges there will be a mountain. Go around it and you'll arrive. Longchen pointed. That man nodded and went away according to his directions. Big brother, hello. May I ask if you know how to get to the Guangji Hall? A woman now came up to Longchen. Turn around. That building behind you, is it? Said Longchen. Thank you, big brother. The woman thanked him and turned around. Longchen, you're so evil. Meng Qi and the others, who were behind Longchen, laughed. That pitiful fellow was definitely going to get lost thanks to Longchen's directions. Calling me uncle is one thing, but he wasn't even polite. This'll teach him a lesson, laughed Longchen. Longchen didn't want to startle anyone by his arrival at the Grand Xia. He went directly to the Wine God Palace, and only there did he and Meng Qi reveal their true appearances. A disciple from the Wine God Palace naturally came to greet them. Meng Qi and the others were a bit nervous at being in such a place. More disciples of the Wine God Palace began to appear, greeting them. They all felt great reverence for Longchen, not because of his cultivation base or position, but because his knowledge in medicinal wines had greatly benefited them. As they crossed the mountainous path, they arrived at a small manor. There was a woman reading off a scroll, and in front of her was a girl solemnly listening and following along. Seeing that girl, Longchen smiled warmly. That was his little sister, Long Xiaoyu. She had grown up quite a bit since their last parting. She took more after their mother. She was very obedient and seemed like a well-educated daughter of a noble family, but there was a hint of naughtiness within her as well. Although she was solemnly reciting something, she was secretly playing with something in her hands at the same time. Long Chen couldn't help thinking how he had been quite a bad child as well when he was young, making his teachers fume and causing his mother to scold him. As for the woman teaching Xiaoyu, Long Chen recognized her. She was a life star expert of the Wine God Palace, and she had helped him when he had been leaving the city. How could Xiaoyu's secretive actions really escape her observation? She just didn't expose her. Xiaoyu, within this verse, what does it mean when it says the heart must have no agitation, that you must be like a mountain and sea, that even heaven and earth cannot destroy you? Asked the woman. I know. It's saying that we have to concentrate all our focus and energy, like a tall mountain that cannot fall, like a great sea that never dries up. Even the power of heaven and earth cannot destroy us. It's an expression of fighting against fate, said Xiaoyu very obediently. The woman nodded. The movement of the heavenly Taos has set a fate for every being, but fate can be changed. If you want to obtain more, you have to go against your fate. Although you might not succeed, if you don't try, you definitely won't succeed. Xiaoyu, tell me, what do you think about this? I want to be a strong person like my big brother, said Long Xiaoyu. What? Because my brother is my mom and dad's pride, and the pride of our Phoenix Cry Empire. I want to be someone my parents can be proud of as well. The little girl raised her fist, looking exceptionally adorable. The people Long Xiaoyu encountered, other than her parents, were mostly from the Wine God Palace, with a few people from the Grand Xia's Imperial Palace. To not make her feel lonely, the Imperial Palace often sent over a few children the same age as her to play with. Xia Yunchong, Xia Yuluo, and the others also often came to look after her. That was why what she knew about Long Chen mostly came from other people's mouths. The Grand Xia was a nation within the cultivation world, and its people felt great worship for Long Chen. Many of the stories about him had been turned into legends. Then, considering what stories the children might pass to Long Xiaoyu, she had felt even greater worship for her brother. Do you miss your big brother? I do. Then I'll use a magical art to let you see your big brother. How's that? Really? Close your eyes. The woman smiled and covered Long Xiaoyu's eyes, slowly turning her around. You can open your eyes. I'm afraid I won't see him. I don't want to be disappointed. Long Xiaoyu actually didn't dare to open her eyes. However, in the end, her eyes slowly opened. She saw a man in black robes, his eyes bright as the stars, with a smile warmer than the sun. Big brother. Long Xiaoyu, after a moment of stunned shock, suddenly ran over to Long Chen. Xiaoyu, did you miss me? Long Chen laughed and hugged her. I missed you a lot. Big brother, how did you get here? I don't know either. I was just strolling through the sheets when clouds gathered in the sky, and a ray of light enveloped me. Then I appeared here, said Long Chen. Wow, my teacher is so amazing. I want to be able to summon you like that too. Then you have to listen to her and work hard, said Long Chen, pointing to the paper man she was playing with in her hands. Only then did she notice that she had exposed this paper man in her excitement. She blushed, turning around to apologize to her teacher. But her teacher had already left. Here, Xiaoyu, let me introduce you. These are your future sisters-in-law. Long Chen presented Xiaoyu to Meng Qi and the others. Little sister, don't listen to your big brother's nonsense. You can just call us big sister in the future, said Meng Qi, glaring at Long Chen for a moment. Wow, big sisters, you're all so beautiful, exclaimed Long Xiaoyu. Meng Qi and the others laughed. Long Xiaoyu was actually quite smart and adorable. Meng Qi and the others were already starting to fall in love with her. After talking a bit more, Long Chen asked about their parents. Long Xiaoyu said that their mother was weeding the garden, while their father was making wine. Long Chen was startled. Only later when he asked some disciples of the Wine God Palace did he learn that his father had actually taken up the banner of the Wine God Palace and started learning how to make wine. Although he was only a titular disciple, it was still shocking. After all, Long Tianxiao had been a military man, the empire's greatest general that had fought on the front lines. For him to be able to have the calm heart the wine god palace required to make wine was quite shocking. They walked through the mountains, arriving at a small little area. There was a field full of vegetables, and Mrs. Long was currently using a hoe to weed. The wine god palace did not lack food, but Mrs. Long always felt that it was better to have something to do. These vegetables kept her busy. Seeing Long Chen, she was incredibly emotional. She was about to speak when she saw Meng Qi and the others. "Cheer! Mom!" Meng Qi hastily went up, completely red. She was originally Long Chen's fiancée, so calling her mom was only natural. "Good child, the two of you have ended up together in the end. Ah, quick, let go, I'm dirty." Mrs. Long only noticed how much dust and dirt was on her after hugging Meng Qi. "Mom, don't worry about it." Chu Yao also came up. "You Princess Chu Yao." Mrs. Long became even more delighted. "Mom, I'm Tangwaner, remember?" Tangwaner also came up, not knowing what to say. Good. Good children, this isn't the place to talk. Let's go inside." Mrs. Long was more excited than anyone. Originally, she had been worried about Long Chen being at such an age and still not having a family. Now, he had brought back so many women, all beautiful fairies. It was too bad that she only had 2 hands and couldn't hold them all. To Long Chen she said, "Chen, go call your father out of his wine cellar. Drag him out of his wine barrel so we can have a proper family dinner." Mrs. Long was so delighted that she actually shooed off Long Chen, enthusiastically getting to know Meng Qi and the others. Even Long Xiaoyu didn't follow Long Chen. She was pulled away by Meng Qi and the others. Helplessly, Long Chen could only ask where the cellar was and go by himself. The cellar was located under a mountain. The temperature, humidity, and density of spiritual qi were all perfect for wine. All the wine god palace's disciples had their own wine cellars. When he entered the one belonging to Long Tianxiao, a faint wine fragrance came out. It was faint but very pure. It had only been a few years, but his father was already capable of making such wine? Long Chen was amazed. There was a certain realm within this wine that he couldn't pinpoint exactly what it was without tasting it. He quickly saw a figure busy sealing a jug. When Long Chen got closer, that person turned around. Seeing Long Chen, a warm smile appeared on his stalwart face. Father and son smiled at each other. That smile contained all their emotions. Sometimes, the relationships between men were just that simple. "You came at the right time. Come and try out my wine." Long Tianxiao's appearance hadn't changed even after so many years. In fact, due to his lack of stress, he looked even younger. "Alright, but you have to hurry back. There are guests, and it seems Mom doesn't like the fact that you're making wine." Long Chen smiled and received a few jugs of wine. "Ah, your mom, she can never stop worrying about anything. I'm used to it. There are guests? Looks like you've had some accomplishments." Long Tianxiao guessed something. "Dad, is this really your wine? It's not bad. Before this, I just drank the wine without realizing that there's such a profound essence within the wine Dao. To tell you the truth, making wine is truly addicting. It's like painting. You express your life's experiences and comprehension within the wine. Tasting it is immersing yourself in the maker's life. That kind of feeling of accomplishment isn't something that outsiders can understand," said Long Tianxian. "As long as you're happy." Long Chen smiled. He had already caused them to lose their original lifestyles twice due to his rise. So he was happy that they were satisfied with their new lives. Long Tianxiao returned to their home and couldn't help being surprised after seeing Meng Qi, Chu Yao, Tang Waner, and the others. He hadn't expected Long Chen to bring home so many. When they all called him Dad, he smiled delightedly. As a result, even after searching for a long time, there wasn't the slightest gift he could give them to welcome them into their family. Mrs. Long was smiling brightly the entire time. Meng Qi, Chu Yao, Tang Wana, Cloud, and Lu Rian were all top beauties. She was delighted by her son's skill. She had Meng Qi and the others rest while she prepared the food. Mrs. Long wasn't a cultivator, and although Long Chen had given her some medicine to keep her in good health, she still needed to eat. When Meng Qi and the others tried to help, she shooed them off, refusing to let them do such mundane work. Long Chen took out a few scarlet blood spirit fish for Long Tianxiao. Before coming to the Wine God Palace, Long Tianxiao had spent quite a few years secluded in the mountains and had roasted quite a few good fish. Preparing the food would take a while, so Long Xiaoyu dragged Meng Qi and the others to play hide and seek. The sound of laughter constantly rang out from that side. Long Chen said that he would come back for dinner and left to go to the rear mountains. This place was the Wine God Palace. After seeing his parents, he had to see the high priest, or it would be rude. Fatty! Passing by Tu Qianshang's house, he let out a shout upon hearing the snores coming from inside. "Ha, little fellow, you've come." Tu Qianshang smiled. "I have something I need to do first, but I'll come back to find you in a bit," said Long Chen. I thought you were here for our 300-round match. Don't you feel ashamed of waking people from their dreams for no reason?" demanded Tu Qianshang, his smile vanishing. He had already taken out the wine jugs. "I was afraid you drank so much that you would pee yourself in bed. That would damage your reputation," laughed Long Chen while walking past Tu Qianshang's side, making Tu Qianshang go somewhere between laughter and tears. Long Chen quickly arrived at the high priest's residence. Even without a disciple to report his arrival, the high priest had already come out, waiting for him. "Greetings, high priest. Thank you for your help." Long Chen bowed. Last time, the high priest had appeared and stopped the old man's life and death exchange with Yu Shaoyan. Although he had great confidence in the old man's combat power, Yu Shaoyan was the master of Pill Valley and had countless trump cards. If something happened to the old man, Long Chen would regret it very much. "It can't count as help. I'm ashamed to speak of it," said the high priest with an amicable smile. He was always like a kindly elder without any of the arrogance that an expert of his level normally possessed. In Long Chen's heart, only such a person was a true expert. "How can you say that? If it wasn't for your intimidation, the martial heaven continent might already be in chaos," said Long Chen. "You're wrong. It wasn't intimidation but simply the truth. Based on various signs, the Dark Era is truly about to descend. Regretfully, the current martial heaven continent's experts are like a plate of loose sand. They can ignore the very continent's safety just for a little temporary profit to themselves. Perhaps this great era will truly be the end," sighed the high priest. "Is it really so serious?" asked Long Chen. "Perhaps it's even more serious than you think. Geniuses are rising like spring bamboo after the rain, indicating that we've entered the great era, a prosperous time for us to grow. As for Pill Valley's Pill Fairy, she is receiving a god's inheritance. Once she succeeds, the continent's chi flow will once more change. It will cause a chain reaction. The arrival of the divine daughters and divine sons will ignite the continent's remaining chi flow. Geniuses and monsters will be born to face the Dark Era. If we can survive the Dark Era, then the continent will have a chance to undergo nirvanic rebirth. If we can't, then it will be destroyed. Isn't it said that in the past dark eras, a sovereign will always appear to bring peace to the chaotic world? Yes. In the past, a sovereign always appeared with the Dark Era. The sovereigns were existences that rose to face this tribulation. Their power dominated those in the same realm. But the sovereigns all started their rise during the great eras. Any other so-called geniuses could only sigh that they were born at the wrong time, as the sovereigns suppressed them all. However, during this great era, other than you, there is no shocking and amazing figure amongst the human race. As for you, there is no chance for you to become a sovereign," sighed the high priest. "Why is that? First, you like wearing black clothes while the past sovereigns all wore white. White represents redemption, hope, and holiness. So the sovereigns were all existences that every race revered. That is a kind of power that surpasses races. But black represents death, despair, and slaughter, completely contrary to the sovereign's will to save all lives. Let alone subduing all races, you can't even subdue your own human race. The majority of experts in the continent are your enemies, so how are you supposed to lead the continent? Other than that, your spirit bone has been excavated, your spirit blood has been extracted, and your spirit root is gone. There is no way for you to become a sovereign sprout. Perhaps what I'm saying is a bit difficult to hear and accept, but they are facts. So you should prepare yourself, warned the high priest. Prepare for what? Asked Longchen. If no sovereign appears in this era, then the martial heaven continent's destruction is essentially set in stone. If a sovereign does appear, then you will very likely die because the sovereigns suppressed all their enemies. This is fate. No one can contend with a sovereign. Longchen couldn't help bitterly smiling. It seems that neither of those options is good. That is true. I'm telling you this so you can prepare. If the continent is destroyed and you want to live, you need to be ready. Otherwise, it will be too late, said the high priest. Longchen understood. The high priest wanted him to prepare a way out. If the continent was destroyed, he had to come up with a way to make sure that he didn't die with it. The martial heaven continent's destruction would mean the deaths of billions of lives. It was an unimaginable calamity. Is the Dark Era really so terrifying? Probed Longchen. Each time a Dark Era has descended, it has injured the core of the martial heaven continent, almost destroying it. You can imagine just how terrifying such tribulation is, said the high priest. Many thanks for your warning. I understand, thanked Longchen. In truth, there was no difference between knowing and not knowing this. Perhaps he could bring a few people with him to the spirit world, but if the martial heaven continent was destroyed, how long would the spirit world be able to last? And most importantly, would he really be able to accept running? Perhaps he might be able to accept it, but could the will of the pill sovereign accept it? If a sovereign did appear, then it would be alright if their temper was good. But if they didn't get along with Longchen, what would Longchen do? Wouldn't there be a fight to the death between them? Longchen's good mood at seeing his parents again ended up vanishing due to the high priest's words. However, learning about this now was better than later. If the continent's hearts could be united against the outsiders, then perhaps there would be some hope. However, that was only a dream. The two of them chatted a bit longer. The high priest gave Longchen a few jugs of wine that improved his mood. Of course, he didn't accept them for nothing. He immediately handed over 18 of his largest scarlet blood spirit fish, which the high priest happily accepted. After obtaining the wine, Longchen's heart grew brighter. Perhaps it should simply be described as the followers of the wine god put it. If there's wine today, drink it. If there are worries tomorrow, worry about them tomorrow. Longchen returned home. As a family, they ate around a table. Mrs. Long and the others were amazed by the taste of the scarlet blood spirit fish. Now it had become Meng Qi, Chu Yao, and Tang Wanner's turn to move vegetables onto Longchen's plate, making Mrs. Long laugh. After eating dinner, they prepared for bed, only to be dumbfounded. Mrs. Long had prepared a single big bed for their room. While there was space for the 6 of them, it was going to be awkward. Mrs. Long stealthily whispered in Longchen's ear, "Whether or not you can give me some grandchildren after sleeping together with these 5 fairies will be up to your abilities." Longchen immediately understood, but the most embarrassing thing was that his mother had forgotten that these fairies were powerful cultivators who could easily hear her whisper. Meng Qi, Chu Yao, and Tang Wanner instantly turned red and turned away, not daring to look at Longchen. The room only had one giant bed. Then the question was, how should they sleep? Meng Qi, Chu Yao, and Tang Wanner had already grown familiar with Longchen. Although they hadn't gotten to that last step, some vague touching had been achieved. However, there was now also an innocent Cloud and an icy Lu Ruyan. "I'll sleep next to Big Brother Longchen." Cloud was still like a child and didn't have as many taboos. "Be careful of him eating you," warned Tang Wan. "I don't believe it. Big Brother Longchen doesn't eat people. Only Wild does," said Cloud without understanding what Tang Wanner was indicating. "Wanner." Meng Qi glared at Tang Wan. The pure Cloud was being led astray by Tang Wan. "I'll sleep next to Longchen." Unexpectedly, Lu Ruyan actually volunteered to be next to Longchen. As a result, Longchen slept in the middle with Cloud, Meng Qi, and Tang Wanner to his left, and Lu Ruyan and Chu Yao to his right. "What are you looking at me for?" Once the lights were out, Long Chen found Lu Rian staring at him. "It's nothing. I'll just quietly keep watch over you," said Lu Rian indifferently. Damn, so it was no wonder Chu Yao and Meng Qi had been laughing stealthily. So Lu Rian was present to keep an eye on him and make sure he didn't try anything questionable. They stayed in the Wine God Palace for 3 days. Long Chen once more had a battle with Fatty too, but he was amazed to find that the Fatty's skills in the finger-guessing game had improved. Who knew how he had trained, but in their battle, Long Chen won some and lost some before the two of them collapsed from drinking. During this time, Long Chen also went to the Grand Xia's imperial palace to see the Emperor Xia Yang, the Crown Prince Xia Yunfeng, Xia Yunchong, and Xia Yuluo. Xia Yuluo in particular was no longer the pampered and unreasonable princess. She had matured and now acted refined and graceful. But for some reason, Long Chen felt like he liked the old her more. Xia Yuluo's eyes rippled when she saw Long Chen. It seemed that she had many things that she wanted to say, but she didn't say them in the end. She merely smiled and raised a cup of wine to him. There were many things contained within this cup of wine, but as for what they were, Long Chen didn't know. Perhaps even Xia Yuluo herself didn't know. Xia Yunchong was still the same as ever. He hadn't grown reserved just because of Long Chen's power, something Long Chen was gratified by. When Long Chen asked Xia Yunfeng how the situation with the ancient nations was recently, he was silent for a moment before saying, "While the Grand Xia, Grand Chu, and Grand Zhou are flourishing, the Grand Han almost destroyed itself with its internal battles. However, in the past few months, their internal battles suddenly stopped." The curious thing was that based on our investigation, there was no interference from Pill Valley. "Did you not think about dividing the Grand Han's territory?" asked Long Chen. Xia Yunfeng shook his head. "Brother Long, taking over the territory might be easy, but none of the ancient nations want to accept the Grand Han's commoners. We'll only accept some refugees affected by the internal battles inside the Grand Han and give them a place to recuperate. The Grand Han's people believe that the universe started with them, and that it's only natural for others to treat them well. Even in the territory we gave to the refugees, problems are constantly sprouting. To help the elderly and young, we sent over emergency relief resources, but there were so many of them in the end that we couldn't afford the cost, so we gave them seeds and farming tools so that they could provide for themselves. But instead of farming, they want to make the space we gave them their own territory. Brother Long, tell me, don't you think they're stupid?" Xia Yunfeng couldn't help sneering at their foolishness. "They're such marvels?" Long Chen couldn't help being amazed. Xia Yunfeng said, "It can't be blamed on them. It's simply the result of the Grand Han's imperial family's indoctrination. They instilled the sense in their people that they were above the human race, constantly making up legends to fool their people. Hence, their commoners are the victims. Nevertheless, this kind of brainwashing can't be fixed in just 1 or 2 generations. So to maintain the nation's stability and unity, the other 3 ancient nations don't want to take them in. The only worrisome thing is that the Grand Han's chaos suddenly calmed down. Furthermore, some rumors say that the protective gods of the Grand Han have awakened. It seems someone is creating legends for the Grand Han once more. Keeping the people ignorant in times of chaos was the best way to keep the peace. Making up some protective gods could make the people feel hopeful and fill them with vigor. There were several examples of such things occurring in the Grand Han's history. But for educated people aware of history, such a thing would be useless. If the Grand Xia's leaders tried such a thing on its people, they would be scoffed at. Protective gods? Long Chen also sneered. When had this world gained so many protective gods? Rather than getting stronger themselves, they hoped for others to protect them? The next morning, Long Chen stealthily brought Meng Qi and the others away. They were afraid of the sadness from leaving, so they decided not to say goodbye. After leaving the Grand Xia, Cloud transformed into her true form, bringing them speeding away. After advancing to the 11th rank, Cloud's speed even amazed Long Chen. Divine light flowed across her feathers, bringing her speeding away. The space ahead of them seemed compressed. Cloud's speed was starting to break the laws of space-time. After less than a few hours of flying, they arrived at an empty land. Cloud landed here and unleashed the power of her bloodline. A passageway appeared in the air. Cloud brought Long Chen and the others into the passage. The scene before them changed. They entered a desolate desert without the slightest signs of life. Heaven and earth rumbled. One large figure after another appeared in the sky. They were all experts of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race. This place was actually one of their strongholds. Those experts transformed into human form. Their leader was a graceful and beautiful woman, which released immense pressure. She was actually a powerful 12th rank Xian beast. In total, 80 experts of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race had come. The woman bowed deeply to Long Chen. Respected experts of the human race, thank you for your grace toward the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race. We will never forget this in our lifetimes. This woman was the stronghold's strongest expert. The others knelt on the ground. You're too courteous. Cloud has been with us since she was a child, and she saved us from crisis multiple times. We're a family, and you're our family as well, said Long Chen. Cloud was a member of the Dragon Blood Legion, and her matters were the Dragon Blood Legion's matters. There was no need for others to thank them for such a thing. At this time, other cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrows began to fly over, but they were younger and unable to transform yet. They curiously looked at Long Chen and the others. Long Chen said, I came here today to tell you that there is no need to hide any longer. The great era has come, causing the world's chi flow to erupt. Hiding within minor worlds will affect your growth. If you continue like this, you will miss your best time to soar. As for the Xian beasts, as long as I say the word, they won't dare to touch you for at least a while. That's why I hope you can call out the entire cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race to grasp this opportunity. I will leave Meng Qi here so that you can probe the inside of the myriad spirit diagram. The divine abilities of your cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race are inside. It will allow you to raise your power as fast as possible. The current cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race was forced to hide. They spent the majority of their time within their secret strongholds. Most of those strongholds were in desolate minor worlds that weren't suitable for cultivation. Only by entering the martial heaven continent could they properly cultivate. Before this, they had been forced to be secretive upon entering the continent, afraid of being noticed by the experts of the Xian beasts. If noticed, they would rather fight to the death than try returning to their strongholds, as they didn't wish their enemies to know where the strongholds were. So despite being such a powerful race, the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race was suppressed and forced into such a state. Long Chen wanted to bring them back into the continent so that they could soar. Then he would have raised another powerful ally. As for the Xian beasts, he trusted that they wouldn't take action against them. They had witnessed the destruction of Heavenly Fate Island. Most importantly, he had also destroyed their headquarters, ruining the resources they had been stockpiling for countless years. That was a grievous blow to them, and they would be forced to lie low for a while. This was the best chance for the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race. Very quickly, a heavy piece of news spread throughout the martial heaven continent. The cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing Sparrow race that had been hunted down by the Xian beasts was no longer hiding. They were establishing their headquarters in the eastern Xian region. At the same time, Long Chen announced that the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing Sparrow race was allied with the Dragon Blood Legion. If anyone dared to touch the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing Sparrow race, he would go to their home for his next tribulation. For Long Chen to publicly support the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race was a bit surprising but within reason. However, his promise was a bit vicious. Just his life's star tribulation had been enough to destroy Heavenly Fate Island and the headquarters of the Xian beasts. That kind of tribulation wasn't something that just anyone could survive. At the same time, the Martial Heaven Alliance also came out in support of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race. While Long Chen was now outside the Martial Heaven Alliance, he was still one with them. However, he was no longer under the Martial Heaven Alliance. He now allied with them. After establishing their territory, countless cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrows began to flock over from their strongholds. Long Chen hadn't expected them to number in the millions. However, the majority of them were still young and hadn't fully grown. That was because when the Xian beasts had suppressed them, many of the seniors of their race had fought to the death. As for the weaker members, they could only do their best to reproduce as much as possible. This generation's leader of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race was named Yuju. She was at the mid-12th rank, equivalent to the human race's second step of nether passage. Within the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race, there were a total of 11 people on Yuju's level. However, they didn't have a single existence on the level of the late 12th rank. The human race's nether passage realm was split into 4 steps, while 12th rank magical beasts were the same but merely with different names. They were the early 12th rank, mid-12th rank, late 12th rank, and the great circle of the 12th rank. And just like the nether passage realm, the difference between each level was vast. When the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race declared they were coming out once more, the Dragonblood Legion naturally came to their new headquarters, while Chu Jianying and the others from the Martial Heaven Alliance were also present. However, the old man didn't come. He only sent Boss Bao and the others. Boss Bao stealthily told Long Chen that the old man had been completely infuriated last time, even breaking tables and chairs in his rage. It had taken quite a bit of that kind of venting before he calmed down. Originally, he had also been thinking of coming, but upon thinking that he would see Chu Jianying, he had decided not to come. Long Chen couldn't help sighing inside. Was this a case of growing more like a child the older you got? Originally, he had just been expecting the Martial Heaven Alliance to come, but even Zheng Wenlong was here, bringing a celebratory gift and representing the Huayan sect. To use his words, as long as there was business to do, they would come. After greeting him, Long Chen smiled. Brother Wenlong, don't blame me for not sending you an invitation. I was afraid you would come find me for the debt I owe you. Long Chen had used the scarlet blood spirit fish and quite a few medicinal pill formulas as collateral to take out a huge loan. That had been the only way to create the divine items for the Dragonblood Legion. Those things were still in Zheng Wenlong's hands, but they hadn't been turned into money just yet. It could be said that Long Chen owed him a huge debt. Hiding from your debt, is it? When have I ever demanded you to pay me? As long as you're still living well, my profits will continue to come rolling in, laughed Zheng Wenlong. The amount of money that Long Chen had borrowed from Zheng Wenlong was so great that it could affect the entire operation of the Huayan sect. However, in the long view, the profit exceeded the risk. Most importantly, the Huayan sect was now going all out in raising alchemists. They were crazily snatching up the medicinal pill market, and Pill Valley's monopoly was being broken. This was thanks to Long Chen. Even the Corrupt Path, Ancient Races, Ancient Family Alliance, and the others were secretly buying pills from them. The Huayan sect was a true neutral sect, and as long as there was business to do, they would do it. They wouldn't inflate prices, while the quality of the pills was guaranteed. The prices of the Huayan sect's pills were in general a tenth lower than Pill Valley's. Just 10% wasn't much, but medicinal pills took up 60% of a sect's yearly resources budget. The remaining 40% was enough for the sect's construction needs, maintenance, administration, and other necessities. Medicinal pills were truly the lifeblood of a sect. Most importantly, they had entered the great era where countless geniuses were rising. The large sects were willing to spend all their money on raising those geniuses. So this had become a crazy era for buying medicinal pills. The demand had exceeded the supply, so Pill Valley had long since adjusted the prices of their pills to get more money, and they were continuously increasing the price as the demand increased. That dissatisfied their customers, but there was no way around it because of their monopoly. However, the medicinal pill formulas that Long Chen had released destroyed that monopoly. The Huayan sect had announced that they were hiring alchemists, and they were also focusing more on nurturing their alchemists. The current Huayan sect was encroaching on Pill Valley's businesses, but Pill Valley couldn't do anything about it. They even suspected that there were traders amongst their higher-ups who had sold those pill formulas to the Huayan sect, so they had started an internal investigation. So the money that Long Chen had borrowed was truly nothing when it came to the profit that his pill formulas would bring in. However, they were still in the early stages, and his formulas still hadn't made up the money he had borrowed. It would take at least half a year before he paid off that debt with his pill formulas. Today was a lively day for the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race. The various large powers sent over congratulatory gifts. Even quite a few people came from the neutral powers. As long as the neutral camp's people didn't participate in battles, they could suck up to either side. They didn't want to offend either side, at least on the surface. Furthermore, the neutral camp's sects were very crafty, only sending some of their senior people over, not their sect leaders. That was perfect, as they could give face to Long Chen and the Martial Heaven Alliance without offending the Xian beasts. Someone from the Xian beasts actually came? Xuan and the others' expressions changed. There were over 10 experts who had come bearing the air of the Xian beasts. The Dragon Blood warriors prepared their weapons. As long as they caused the slightest fuss, they would cut them down. Yuju noticed them. She couldn't believe her eyes. Senior Yuju, we're gratified to see you still alive. The speaker was an elder who was the leader of this group. He wept. Xuan and the others slowly loosened their grips on their weapons. It seemed that they had misunderstood. Through Yuju's introductions, they learned that these people belonged to the Cloud Rain Lightning Sparrow race, a branch of the Cloud-chasing Heaven-swallowing Sparrow race. When the Cloud-chasing Heaven-swallowing Sparrow race was expelled from the Xian beasts, quite a few experts of the Cloud Rain Lightning Sparrow race were hunted down as well. They had been hiding this entire time, on their last breaths. Upon learning that the Cloud-chasing Heaven-swallowing Sparrow race had come out once more and established their own territory, they immediately rushed over. Seeing Yuju, they were filled with emotions. Yuju was also crying. She thought back to how glorious the Cloud-chasing Heaven-swallowing Sparrow race had been back in the day. Now they had fallen to this extent and even implicated their allies. Alright, starting today, the Cloud-chasing Heaven-swallowing Sparrow race is rising back to its former glory. You will share that glory with us, promised Yuju. Yuju's promise was serious. Her cultivation base might not be strong enough to promise such a thing, but she had already seen the hope of the Cloud-chasing Heaven-swallowing Sparrow race. It was Long Chen. The myriad spirit diagram had already been opened for them. The majority of their divine abilities had originally been lost, but now that their inheritances were being restored, they were rapidly growing stronger. The fact that they no longer had to hide in minor worlds also improved their cultivation circumstances. Other than that, Long Chen had started on creating transportation formations connecting the Martial Heaven Alliance's headquarters, the Tiandao Sect, and this place. There were also formations connecting them to hundreds of other powers so that they could share their spirit-gathering formations to cultivate. This was a joyous occasion. The Martial Heaven Alliance had gained another ally with limitless potential. They had once more grown stronger. The Xian beasts have sent a congratulatory gift. Just as people thought that everyone coming had arrived and they were starting to prepare a banquet as thanks to all their guests, a strange voice rang out. A small group of Life Star disciples walked in. They weren't from the Xian beasts. They were humans. They put on a domineering front, but the fear in their eyes could be seen by everybody. When they saw Long Chen, their bodies involuntarily quivered. As for why their voices had sounded very strange before, it was because they had tried to sound disdainful, but their voices shuddered, making it sound odd. We represent the Xian beasts in sending a gift. Are you not going to greet us? Said the lead disciple. Don't recite the script that they gave you to put your life in danger. I don't know if I should praise your bravery or curse you for your stupidity, interrupted Long Chen. He didn't know if these people had been forced here or had been bought, but based on their fear, they didn't want to be here. However, they had still come, so their gift couldn't be anything good. Bring out your gift, said Long Chen indifferently. That person hastily took out a case and handed it over. The cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race's experts came forward. When they opened it, their killing intent soared. Courting death. One of those experts was about to kill these people but was stopped by Yuju. Looking inside the case, they saw heads. They were the heads of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race. They belonged to the experts that had been hunted down during the Xian Beast's cooperation with Heavenly Fate Island. Now that the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race was establishing their territory, they sent over those heads. It was clearly a contemptuous insult. "Did the Xian beasts demand you to tell us anything?" asked Kei Yuzhu. As the leader, she had to remain calm and not be so easy to anger. The Xian beasts were being clear. Even if the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race had found support, they would not let them off. They had sent heads without attacking this time, but next time, when they did attack, they would cut off all their heads. They didn't give us anything to say, but they did order us to say things that would anger you. Sorry, we have no choice. If we didn't do it, our wives, children, and elders would be killed," said one courageous disciple suddenly. As expected, they had been forced. This was why they had sent humans. If they had sent Xian beasts, they wouldn't be able to return. They were just scapegoats. Long Chen suddenly had a thought. "What sect are you from?" "We are disciples of the Sea Spirit Gate," said that disciple respectfully. Although they were terrified of Long Chen, they also revered him. "I understand. You were in the first group of sects to join Pill Valley's side. Your sect is too weak. In the eyes of your so-called sect, you're expendable cannon fodder. It should be the Xian beasts that caused your sect to send you out to your deaths. In truth, the wrong ones aren't you but your sect's higher-ups. For your family, you were willing to come despite the danger. That means all of you are real men. There's no need for you to go back if you don't wish to. You can report directly to the Martial Heaven Alliance's 4th commander. As for your families, they will receive the Martial Heaven Alliance's protection, and your original sect won't dare to touch a single hair on their heads, or they'll be asking to be exterminated," said Long Chen. Those disciples were delighted by Long Chen's words. Some of them even wept. Long Chen had not just resolved the danger to their families, but he was even giving them the honor of being the disciples of the Martial Heaven Alliance. The disciples wept and knelt, expressing their thanks. Long Chen waved his hand, bringing them up. Hot-blooded men should only kneel to their parents. Don't submit even to heaven and earth. When you get used to submitting, it will silently erode the sharpness of your Tao heart. I've given you this chance, but as for your futures, it'll be up to yourselves," said Long Chen. The disciples thanked him, bowed deeply to Chu Jianying, and then took their leave, going straight for the headquarters of the Martial Heaven Alliance. "Smart." Li Tianxian smiled and praised Long Chen. "Xian Master overpraises this little one," chortled Long Chen. "What's going on?" asked Chu Jianying. That smile between Long Chen and Li Tianxian was not ordinary. Li Tianxian said, "This move of Long Chen's was very smart. Once those disciples join the Martial Heaven Alliance, it will cause a chain reaction. Of the sects that have betrayed the Martial Heaven Alliance and those that are just standing by the sidelines, countless disciples within them are dissatisfied by their decisions. However, they're just disciples without any authority. They can't change the decisions of the higher-ups. We refuse the sects from joining our ranks because we don't want those scheming old fellows. They're too selfish and care only about themselves. But their disciples are different. It is the current junior generations of this world that are the main characters of this era. We don't want those scheming old fellows, but the disciples have immense potential. As long as we can draw them over, they will become powerful warriors. When news of those disciples being accepted into the Martial Heaven Alliance spreads, it will cause more and more disciples to follow in their footsteps. In the end, we'll have the genius disciples while leaving Pill Valley with the useless scheming elders." Through this explanation, Chu Jianying and the others came to a sudden understanding. It was no wonder Long Chen had so directly refused to allow those sects to join them. He already had a plan to deal with them. He was removing the trash while keeping the gold. This was perfect. Chu Jianying couldn't help sighing over the fact that this fellow was a monster. Chu Jianying immediately sent people to spread word of this incident and to make sure that those new disciples were treated well. They would make the whole world learn that the Martial Heaven Alliance wasn't excluding everyone. They were only excluding the toxic. As long as they were willing to fight for the continent, they could be accepted regardless of their original position. The disciples were innocent. It was the higher-ups who had decided to betray the Martial Heaven Alliance. So the Martial Heaven Alliance would only accept the disciples. The majority of those higher-ups were toxic. Although a portion of them weren't toxic, the Martial Heaven Alliance didn't have the time to accurately determine that. Most importantly, they weren't important. They had already reached their lives' higher points. In truth, they were no longer very valuable. The cultivation world was merciless and cruel. The Martial Heaven Alliance's resources couldn't be spent on the useless. They needed elites. Chu Jianying could already imagine countless disciples throwing themselves to her side thanks to this one move. It wasn't just because the Martial Heaven Alliance was strong now, but also because it was the home of the righteous path. Kei Yuzhu had those heads put away and announced that they would be properly buried another day. Today is a celebratory day for the cloud-chasing, heaven-swallowing sparrow race. Thank you to everyone who came from so far away. I hope you'll accept my apologies for my poor accommodations. For most sects, they would celebrate for 3 days and nights on the inauguration. However, it was much simpler for the Xian beasts. They would normally end things with just a meal. The cloud-chasing, heaven-swallowing sparrow race had too many things to do. They were simply announcing that they were the rulers of this territory and that they were returning to this world. I've already prepared the food, and we can start the feast in just a few hours. However, people can't waste their lives. Some things have to be done immediately, don't you think, race leader Yuzhu? Long Chen looked at Kei Yuzhu with a smile. Kei Yuzhu didn't know how to reply to such a thing. After all, conversing with humans was more difficult for the Xian beasts who always liked to be direct. Brother Long is saying that there's still some time until we eat. Maybe we should get our exercise done to work up our appetites? Said Cloud. After knowing Long Chen for so long, she could guess what he wanted to do. You're saying, Kei Yuzhu was startled. I mean that people should be magnanimous and not always keep grudges, said Long Chen. Now Kei Yuzhu didn't understand again. It was Li Tianxian who said, Long Chen rarely keeps grudges because he's afraid of forgetting them. That's why he prefers to get revenge immediately, so there's no need to keep the grudges. Kei Yuzhu finally understood. Since the Xian beasts had come to provoke them, they wouldn't leave things as they were. They would strike back immediately. All experts of the cloud-chasing, heaven-swallowing sparrow race, hear my orders. Gather for an attack. Kei Yuzhu immediately gathered all the cloud-chasing, heaven-swallowing sparrows that were at the 11th rank and above. Move out. Our target is the Xian Beast's headquarters. Long Chen laughed, while others bitterly smiled. This fellow was definitely not destined to have a peaceful life. This time, there would be a good show to watch. Space shook. One rainbow-colored figure shot through the sky after another. There were over 1,000 cloud-chasing, heaven-swallowing sparrows flying through the air, and they were a wonderful sight to behold. The current cloud-chasing, heaven-swallowing sparrow race was no longer as powerful as before. Only just over 30 of these figures had reached the 12th rank. The rest were at the 11th rank. However, that didn't affect their domineering appearance. Cloud was carrying Long Chen and the others. She was actually flying at the very front. She was incredibly fast. She would only slow down in places that had cities or sections. Heavens, isn't that Long Chen? There's his Dragon Blood Legion too. What are so many experts of the cloud-chasing, heaven-swallowing sparrow race doing together? Countless experts were amazed by what they saw streaking over their heads. They knew that today was the day that the cloud-chasing, heaven-swallowing sparrow race was announcing their return. For Long Chen to lead them through the sky so fiercely, what were they planning? The cloud-chasing, heaven-swallowing sparrow race was viewed as traitors of the Xian beasts. Hence, it had been many years since so many cloud-chasing, heaven-swallowing sparrows had appeared on the continent. Furthermore, Long Chen was leading the Dragon Blood Legion along with the cloud-chasing, heaven-swallowing sparrows. That couldn't be for nothing. Brother Long Chen, where are we going? Asked Cloud. Dorush. Let's stroll around for a while longer to announce to the world that the cloud-chasing, heaven-swallowing sparrow race is back. We will no longer be bullied, and we want revenge. That way, your old followers will be more comfortable with joining your side. You'll need to gather your old loyal subordinates, said Long Chen. The cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race had once been the most powerful race of the Xian beasts. But due to the mechanisms of other races' schemes, they became victims and were expelled from their midst. To wipe away the insult and humiliation of having such a thing done to them would require blood. They would need to rise once more. By patrolling like this, they were showing off their power and making a kind of announcement. But this way, the Xian beasts' headquarters will be prepared. We won't be able to sneak attack them, right? Cloud didn't understand. Foolish girl, they aren't gods. They have no idea if we're targeting their stronghold or not. Right now, our general roaming direction is the headquarters of the Martial Heaven Alliance. They might think that the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race is going there to express their sincerity and thanks. That kind of etiquette was quite common in the ancient era. The Xian beasts won't think we're attacking them because their actions today have gone a bit too far. In truth, those experts were already dead. By returning their heads, they can say that they were simply returning their remains. We have no reason to be angry, said Longchen. Those heads had been cut off in their attacks of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race's strongholds. They had kept the heads to research the divine marks on their crystal bones to see if they could replicate the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race's divine abilities. However, such a thing was incredibly difficult. They weren't capable of it. With the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race announcing their return, they sent over the heads to humiliate them. However, on the other hand, they could also say that they were returning their remains. That kind of double-faced action was particularly disgusting. Then if we don't have an excuse to attack, what are we supposed to do? Asked Cloud worriedly. Do we need an excuse to attack? If they need an excuse, then for example, we can say that the weather's not bad today, said Longchen. When had he ever required an excuse for his actions? The Dragon Blood warriors laughed. As for Chu Jianying and the others, they hadn't come. They had returned to where they had come from. To use Long Chen's words, they had come for formalities only. The Dragonblood Legion and the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race were enough. If they went as well, it would be bullying. Countless experts of the continent stared up in shock as the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrows passed through the sky. The cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrows felt extremely emotional inside at this. After so many years, they were finally flying over the continent once more. They were about to wipe away years of humiliation. Some of them were unable to hold back their bird cries, releasing their resentment and anger. Speed up. Longchen sent a message to Cloud. Multicolored light flowed around Cloud, transforming her into a rainbow that streaked across the horizon. Following Cloud, the others also sped up, and the sound of their cries grew more and more resounding. In the end, they were so fast that the people below only saw a rainbow streak going through the air and heard their cries, without even being able to see their figures. The cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrows accelerated more and more, unleashing their emotions. They felt something that they hadn't felt before. They quickly arrived at the territory of the Xian beasts. Their arrival immediately caused an alarm to ring out. However, they ignored everything, charging straight for the headquarters. The cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrows were too fast, and the Xian beasts were unable to stop them. Hee, we've arrived. Long Chen had a gratified smile. As expected, Zheng Wenlong's reports were very accurate. They hadn't come for nothing. Who's there? There were actually Nether Passage experts here at the headquarters. Countless other experts were also rushing over. These people weren't from the Xian beasts. Last time, their headquarters had been destroyed by Long Chen and Ji Wuming. Hence, the Xian beasts had moved their headquarters to a neighboring plot of land and started to rebuild. This time, rather than just creating caves in a mountain, they were building a grand protective formation. They had invited countless craftsmen to do so. There were all kinds of materials stacked up. The workers were busy surveying and planning for the construction when Long Chen arrived. We're here to accept our gift. Long Chen smiled and walked down from the sky. Those Nether Passage experts' expressions completely changed. What are you doing here? Even the Nether Passage experts who had reached the second step trembled in fear. Long Chen had slain Ji Wuming, who had been at the third step and supported by a supreme sect's karmic luck. As a result, they didn't have the slightest confidence to go against him. If he wanted to kill them, they probably wouldn't even be able to run. I've already said I'm here to accept a gift. What, after being allied with the Xian beasts, have the ancient family alliances people forgotten how to speak the human language? Long Chen sneered. It seemed that the people in charge of rebuilding the Xian beasts' headquarters were from the ancient family alliance. The ancient family alliance had once been one with the righteous path, but due to Di Long, they had fractured. Then through several large battles, both sides had taken losses, and the hatred between the two sides grew. Their hatred for each other had grown to the point where neither side cared who was right and who was wrong. Accepting what gift? Asked that nether passage expert. He began to sweat. He had a bad feeling. Today is the day that the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race is returning to the continent. The Xian beasts sent a paltry congratulatory gift. Feeling like they were all one family, they felt embarrassed to send anything bigger. But since they're embarrassed, we came to take it ourselves. Long Chen waved his hand. Brothers and sisters of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race, no need to stand on courtesy. If it can be moved, take it. Following Long Chen's orders, the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrows opened their mouths. The piles of materials were swallowed by them. No, those are, that nether passage expert suddenly stopped. A white bone spear was pointed at him, and Gu Yang was staring at him icily. As long as he said another word, he wouldn't hesitate to attack. Long Chen patted that nether passage expert on the shoulder. You and I are both parts of the human race. If it weren't for that idiot Di Long, we might be friends. So sometimes right and wrong are important to be clear about. Why would humans make things hard on other humans? These resources belong to the Xian beasts, and I've come here to accept my gift from the Xian beasts. Does it have the slightest thing to do with you? If you're willing to risk your life for them, I'll accompany you. If you aren't, then just quietly watch the show. After all, this has nothing to do with you. As long as you don't raise your weapon against me, I won't do anything to you. But if you do, then there will be no room for negotiation. You can decide yourself if you want to live or die. If you don't want to die, then you should back up a bit from those resources. The workers fled to the side. The resources were sucked up by the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrows. Long Chen had heard that the Xian beasts were reconstructing their headquarters, and those resources were not cheap. Apparently, Pill Valley had paid quite a price, as the Xian beasts themselves were unable to afford such luxury. Now that they were sucked into his pocket, Long Chen really felt refreshed. The Xian beasts would have never imagined that after just a short moment of peace, Long Chen would dare to run over and snatch their resources. Furthermore, he even had an excuse to do so. Seeing those resources being sucked away by the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrows, that nether passage expert could only shake his head with a bitter smile. Those resources belonged to the Xian beasts, and he was only in charge of the construction. The Xian beasts shouldn't take out their anger on him, right? Suddenly, the void rumbled. Countless experts came surging over, blazing with killing intent. The one at the front was the leader of the Xian beasts, Peng Wanli. Long Chen, you have gone too far. Oh, isn't this the great leader of the Peng race? How coincidental to run into you here. Long Chen acted surprised to see the furious Peng Wanli. He then laughed. Truly, thank you for your generosity. As for your gift, I'll accept it. Many thanks for your support of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race. There's no need to invite us for dinner, we still have many guests waiting for us at home. Let us meet again. Seeing Long Chen turn to leave, Peng Wanli roared, Long Chen, hand over our resources, or don't even think about leaving alive. Your resources? What proof do you have that these resources belong to you? Long Chen cocked his head at him. Do they have your name on them? Or your seal? Are they yours just because you say they are? Long Chen was being absolutely shameless. Peng Wanli felt like he might explode with rage as he had never seen anyone so shameless. Long Chen's shamelessness was actually above the Xian beasts. Don't try twisting logic. Those are resources we bought from Pill Valley. Pill Valley can testify," shouted Peng Wanli. More and more experts of the Xian beasts arrived. But when they saw the Dragonblood Legion and the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race, their expressions changed. The cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race had once been kings amongst the Xian beasts. Their divine abilities were famed for their power. Later on, for some unknown reasons, the Pring race joined hands with several other large races to expel them from the Xian beasts. Several large battles were fought. Although most of the experts of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race were killed in those battles, the battles had injured the very core of the Xian beasts. The cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race had actually been powerful enough to deal a grave blow to the Xian beasts even as they were ousted. From this fact, it could be seen just how frightening they were. Now that the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race had Long Chen's support and was rising on the continent once more, the Xian beasts were all tense. Long Chen couldn't help laughing at Peng Wanli. How interesting. So even the unreasonable Xian beasts are willing to give proof to others? How did unreasonable people like you start talking about such things with me? Could it be that you're now afraid of me and don't dare to attack me? However, I'm not here to talk reason with you today. I came to accept your gift. I've now taken it, and whether or not you like it, I'm taking it. What can you do? All the craftsmen that had been working here looked at Long Chen oddly. Long Chen was definitely domineering enough. The Xian beasts were famed for being unreasonable and suppressing others with their power. But today, Long Chen was openly taking their things. The craftsmen sighed inside. Finally, a true domineering existence had appeared amongst the human race. He was practically a bandit. It seemed that such a scenario had never occurred in all the history of the Xian beasts. Although the ancient family alliance was no longer allied with the Martial Heaven Alliance, in the end, they were still part of the human race. Seeing Long Chen be so domineering, they couldn't help feeling admiration for him. "Long Chen, are you declaring war on the Xian beasts?" demanded Peng Wanli. He took out a pitch-black spear. When that spear appeared, the air grew heavy. That was an incredible divine item. A terrifying aura spread like that of an ancient beast. Long Chen summoned Evil Moon and rested it on his shoulder. He took a few steps forward until he was less than a mile from Peng Wanli. "Peng Wanli, since I dared to come, I'm confident in being able to leave safely. If you want to fight, of course I'll welcome you. Our enmity doesn't stem back just 1 or 2 days. If you want to bring our enmity to an end today, I'd be very pleased. Don't the Xian beasts like sending gifts? Today, I am stating this clearly. I'm here to accept your gift. If you're giving, I'm taking. If you're not giving, I'm still taking. If you're giving, I'll treat it as a gift. If you're not giving, I'll treat it as a protection fee. To put it even clearer, I'm here to find trouble with you. You can suck it up, or you can fight," said Long Chen. Even as more Xian beasts gathered here, he didn't have the slightest fear. Instead, his battle intent was flowing out of him. The Dragonblood warriors cheered, their voices filled with killing intent. It was bone-chilling. These were the warriors of the Martial Heaven Continent's #1 Legion. Even Nether Passage experts were terrified. "Long Chen, you have gone too far." Peng Wanli was shuddering from rage. He had never suffered such humiliation in his whole life. At this moment, Kei Yuzhu suddenly stepped forward. "We have gone too far? Peng Wanli, it was you who was envious of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race's divine abilities. You wanted to connect our races by marriage, but we refused, so you allied with other races to expel us. You even framed us as blasphemers of the Peng Emperor. Using that excuse, you hunted us down until we were almost exterminated. Was that not going too far? This secret of the Xian beasts was actually exposed. Absolute nonsense. My Kunpeng race has the bloodline of the Great Peng race. Why would we care about your pitiful bloodline? It was clearly your cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race that got arrogant and wanted to change the name of the Peng Emperor to the Sparrow Emperor. The historical records are very clear. Don't you feel embarrassed making up such lies? The cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race blasphemed the Peng Emperor. wanting to become the absolute rulers and destroying the peaceful unity of the Xian beasts. "Every one of you should be put to the death," shouted Peng Wanli. "You dash." Long Chen raised a hand. "Race leader, we are not here to discuss history. We are here to accept gifts. There is no absolute black or white in this world. As for who is black and who is white, it depends on whose fist is bigger. Whoever's fist is bigger is whoever's mouth is bigger, and whoever's mouth is bigger is the right one. If someone argues, they can just be eaten. There is no need for reason. So don't be angry. Your only fault was not being strong enough to threaten certain people's positions. For them to eliminate potential threats isn't wrong of them. Whether it's in the cultivation world or the world of the Xian beasts, such a thing is common. That's why talking reason is meaningless. Even if they apologized, would you forgive them? So a blood debt must be paid with blood. As for arguing who is right and who is wrong, there's no need." Hearing that, Keiyuzhu calmed down. Long Chen was correct. Debating history had no meaning. The cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race had been hunted down for so many years. So many of them had died to their hands. If the history was cleared up and their enemies apologized, would that be enough for them? "No, Peng Wanli, I've taken your gift. Again, I have guests waiting for me, so we won't be staying for dinner. Of course, if you want to keep us here, I'd be delighted. However, I should warn you that my temper isn't good. If I drink too much, I might just destroy 100 of your races. That's why." Suddenly, a strange sound rang out. It was so loud that it eclipsed Long Chen's voice. Everyone turned toward a certain person in the Dragon Blood Legion. It was Wild. Wild had dozed off, and that sound had been the sound of his stomach rumbling. The sound woke him up, and seeing the Xian beasts in front of him, he shouted, "Brother Long, is it time to eat? I'm hungry." Wild's gaze made those Xian beasts shiver in terror. In the last battle, Wild had killed many of their experts, including true immortal Jiaoqi. They had then been eaten by him. That scene was still fresh in their minds. To the Xian beasts, Wild was a terrifying monster. Wild was not a cultivator, and he didn't have any of the aura of a cultivator. That was why they had overlooked him before. But after that last battle, all of them were apprehensive of him. He was a monster that hungered for their flesh. Even Peng Wanli's expression changed. During that battle, the leader of the ancient races, Long Juansong, had only been able to hold Wild back. He hadn't been able to suppress this crazy monster. The Dragon Blood Legion didn't just have Long Chen. Wild's power was no lower than his, and there were also the captains like Gu Yang, Yu Zifeng, Li Qi, Song Mingyuan, as well as Xiachen, Guoran, Meng Qi, Chu Yao, Tang Wana, Lu Ruyan, and Cloud. Only a portion of the Xian beasts had gathered, and the rest were still on the way. If they were to fight now, Peng Wanli was confident in being able to block Long Chen and Wild, but the others were also dangerous. The Dragon Blood warriors were like wolves, and adding on the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race, rivers of blood would flow. That blood would definitely belong to the Xian beasts. Long Chen's arrival today was too sudden, and they hadn't been the slightest bit prepared. "Let's go back and eat. Of course, if anyone wants to hold us back, we won't mind eating here." Now Long Chen's words had a double meaning. Of course, Wild understood it in only a simple manner. He would rather eat here because there was more food here, and the quality was better. Wild involuntarily gulped down a mouthful of saliva. The way his eyes stared at them gave them goosebumps. It seemed like he was begging them to stop Long Chen. Long Chen then led his people away just like that. The Xian beasts that had formed an encirclement around them didn't dare to make a sound. They hastily scattered. Peng Wanli clenched his spear tightly. His whole arm was shaking, but in the end he didn't move to stop Long Chen. He just watched as Long Chen and the others vanished. "Ooh!" Peng Wanli slammed his spear into the ground. A wave of dust soared into the sky. "Long Chen, just wait for next time." Just after Long Chen left, space rumbled and more experts arrived. The leader of the ancient races, Long Juansong, had arrived with reinforcements from the ancient races. However, he was too late. Considering the speed of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race, there was no way they could catch up. Peng Wanli was ashen with rage. He had never suffered something so frustrating in all his life. Right in front of him, his resources were stolen. Should we attack them? Asked Long Juansong. The ancient races always let the Xian beasts take the lead. Moreover, the relationship between the two races had grown closer thanks to Long Qin. The Xian beasts had officially recognized the ancient races. However, they had yet to let them join them. Let Long Qin be arrogant for a while. Just relying on the two of us, we can't fight against the Martial Heaven Alliance. This is clearly the Martial Heaven Alliance causing trouble. The Brahma secret realm is about to open, so they're trying to make a counterplay, said Peng Wanli. If Chu Jianying was present, she would definitely sneer at them. This matter had nothing to do with the Martial Heaven Alliance. It had entirely been Long Chen's idea. The brains of the Shen beasts were truly lacking. Go back and prepare all the elite disciples for the Brahma secret realm. Pill Valley is finally willing to pay such a price. We can't stand on courtesy. As for Long Chen, let him be. After all, the Martial Heaven Alliance does not have the inheritance of a god. After the Brahma secret realm, all our disciples will have grown stronger, while they'll still be stuck. The difference will gradually grow. Long Chen is a madman that no one wants to provoke. If we go all out against him by ourselves, the others will just laugh at us. Heavenly Fate Island is the best example. The Martial Heaven Alliance can't do anything about Pill Valley's Brahma's secret realm, so they're just sending Long Chen to mess up our plans. We won't let them achieve their goals. We will make sure to repay our losses and humiliation today 100 times, said Peng Wanli. Then about the Peng Emperor's altar? Said Long Juansong hesitatingly. Once the Brahma's secret realm is over, the ceremony will begin. You can send 100 elites from your side. As for whether or not they can accept the Peng Emperor's blessing, it will be up to their luck, said Peng Wanli. Many thanks. Long Juansong was delighted to hear this. The Peng Emperor had been the supreme expert of the Xian beasts. He had been one of the only existences in this world capable of challenging the sovereigns. In history, only 3 such emperors had appeared, and one was from the Xian beasts' Kunpeng race. Once the Peng Emperor's sacrificial ceremony is over, the Xian beasts will rise. The Martial Heaven continent will be ours to rule. Remember, don't trust the human race at any time, said Peng Wanli. Understood. Long Chen brought the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race back to their territory in high spirits. They were all delighted. They had managed to vent some of their anger. Long Chen had openly taken Peng Wanli's resources, and Peng Wanli hadn't even dared to do anything. He had just watched them leave. Remembering his furious expression, they all felt refreshed. Big Brother Long Chen is amazing. That Peng Wanli didn't even dare to attack us, exclaimed Cloud excitedly. He truly didn't dare to attack because we are now strong enough that he has to be restrained in front of us. Without enough time, he can't possibly gather enough experts to attack us. If he had really wanted to fight, it wouldn't have just been a fight between us. The entire Martial Heaven Alliance would join in. Yu Xiaoyun is currently in a weaker position, so he won't fight during this period. Both sides taking heavy losses is not what he wants. Although Peng Wanli is stupid, he can see this point, or he wouldn't be fit to lead the Xian beasts. No matter how angry he was, he had to endure it. As for us, we had to do this to restore our prestige. This is an important day to the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race. Considering how the Xian beasts have humiliated us, today was just some interest. As for the real debt, we'll settle it later, said Long Chen. Cloud was extremely grateful. She knew that he was only getting involved in this matter because of her. He even treated the entire cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race as his family. Considering the speed of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race, they quickly returned. When Chu Jianying and the others saw the pile of resources they had brought back, they were stunned. We robbed tough, we went to accept their gift. Guoran immediately switched words upon being glared at by Long Chen. When Chu Jianying and the others learned that Long Chen had gone to the Xian Beast's headquarters and stolen the materials they had prepared for their reconstruction, they were shocked. They had originally thought that he would just cause some fuss throughout the Xian beast's territory in the eastern Xian region. He might destroy a few buildings and strongholds as a show of might. Once they won back some face, that would be enough. However, he had personally gone to their home and stolen their things right in front of Peng Wanli. The Xian beasts hadn't even dared to do anything. This was their first time feeling a trace of sympathy for Peng Wanli. Considering Peng Wanli's unreasonable and tyrannical nature, he had probably never suffered like this in all his life. It was unknown if he would directly die from his rage. This move shook the very continent. The cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race was forcibly rising. Another terrifying faction had appeared on the continent, and they were solid allies with Long Qin. The entire continent's board changed because of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race's domineering return. Originally, Long Qin had just been planning on setting up a simple headquarters for the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race, making it so that they could share a portion of the spirit-gathering formations of the various sections. However, with the gift the Xian beasts had given them, they directly built their own spirit-gathering formations, transportation formations, and a grand protective formation. Moreover, there were plenty of workers. The Martial Heaven Alliance had never lacked manpower. With so many materials, it would only take a month for the construction to be completed. The spirit-gathering formations would only need half a month before they could be used. Cultivating with spirit-gathering formations meant that the world's dense spiritual qi would pour into their bodies. This kind of blessing was unimaginable for the old cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race. Meng Qi was also sharing the myriad spirit diagram with the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race, allowing them to rediscover their lost divine abilities. Each day they got stronger. This filled them with confidence. After arranging this, Long Qin had the Dragonblood Legion temporarily stay here. After all, the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race had yet to fully recover and needed some protection. During this time, Long Qin encountered one difficulty. After advancing to the first heaven stage of Life Star, his cultivation base hadn't improved in the slightest. He would need 11th rank medicinal pills to advance any further. However, there were no 11th rank medicinal pills in his pill god memories. The pills that he had stolen also only reached the 10th tier. He had never seen an 11th rank medicinal pill. Could it be that the 10th tier was the limit? If that was the case, he was doomed. Others might be fine cultivating without medicinal pills, but he couldn't. The 9-star Hegemon body art's cultivation speed was already slow from the start. But now that he was in the Life Star realm, he had 108,000 astral spaces, and any advancement would be extremely difficult. If he cultivated according to normal standards, he didn't even know how many centuries it would take him to reach the second heaven stage. By that time, it would be too late. Long Qin bitterly racked his brain, but he was unable to find any memories relating to 11th tier medicinal pills. Helplessly, he could only go find Zheng Wenlong. Zheng Wenlong told him that an 11th tier medicinal pill had never publicly appeared in this world. However, that didn't represent that they didn't exist. Zheng Wenlong secretly told him that it was rumored that Pill Valley had 11th tier medicinal pills. However, it was just a guess. They had never personally seen any, so they couldn't be sure. Zheng Wenlong couldn't know Pill Valley's top secrets, so what he was saying was only what he had heard from his higher-ups. But there was no proof. This news was of no help to Long Qin. Even if Pill Valley had formulas capable of refining 11th tier medicinal pills, they were top secret. They were very likely only known by a handful of people. To obtain them wasn't possible. Helplessly, Long Qin could only cultivate within the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race's spirit-gathering formations. He activated his divine ring, absorbing as much spiritual qi as he could. After 10 days, he felt like his astral spaces might have grown a bit larger, but he didn't feel anything concrete. This speed was too slow. Clearly, this kind of cultivation was no good for him. The 9-star Hegemon body art was not cultivated like this. He had to rely on medicinal pills. On this day, Long Qin left with Wild. He brought Wild to the skyscraping world, having the original devil race's people look after him. They needed to have someone go hunting with him so that he didn't get lost. He then left on his own. Long Chen had been hoping to spend a few days with Yu Shaoqian, but she was already in seclusion. Yu Shaoqian had reached the final stages of the profound spirit Taoist scripture. She was just one step from mastering it. That profound spirit Taoist scripture had been a priceless treasure found within the yin-yang world. Once she mastered it, she would be able to perfectly disguise herself and freely walk throughout the martial heaven continent. Time passed one day at a time, and undercurrents were flowing throughout the continent. The various large powers were gathering their geniuses and sending them to Pill Valley. The Brahma's secret realm was about to open. The martial heaven continent had a long history and countless inheritances. It had given rise to countless experts in the past. In the immortal era, even gods had appeared. The majority of experts liked to leave some of their inheritances behind for destined people to carry on their legacies. Some supreme experts left behind their astral spaces, turning them into minor worlds. Those minor worlds were attached to the martial heaven continent. As long as you could find the entrance, you could enter. However, after so many years, many minor worlds were in ruins. Some had fractured and vanished. Practically, every sect on the continent had its own inheritance land. Some seniors had left behind their astral spaces and they were kept in order by their descendants. They were precious legacies. Other than those spaces with masters, there were some spaces without masters. Some of those spaces were too big, and as the martial heaven continent moved, they clashed with its laws, resulting in their destruction. Some of those spaces were able to resist that clash and ended up being drawn into cracks within the world. Some formed a strange resonance. There were also some like the yin-yang world and Devil Spirit Mountain. Most likely, a minor world had formed a resonance while in contact with both the martial heaven continent and those foreign worlds. Those two minor worlds had been compressed by both worlds, resulting in them being crushed and forming spatial channels connecting the worlds. If it wasn't for the sovereign blood seal suppressing those channels, the devil race and the blood race would have long since charged onto the continent. There were layers of space throughout this world. Perhaps they weren't visible, but they existed. Some ancient sects looked like they had been destroyed, but recently, more and more mysterious sects were reappearing. Some of those sects had been gone for so many years that people hadn't even heard of them. However, when people looked through historical records, they found that they were terrifying sects that had been incredible existences thousands of years ago. Now that the Great Era was descending, they were coming out from their minor worlds to restore themselves to their former glory. Geniuses were currently gathering at Pill Valley. They were there to enter the Brahma's secret realm. Long Chen sat atop a tall mountain, watching those geniuses flying over his head. It was unknown what he was thinking. "Are you planning something evil again?" asked Evil Moon. It was truly starting to understand Long Chen. "I have to think of a way to enter the Brahma's secret realm. Do you have a method?" asked Long Chen. "In theory, if you could accurately pinpoint the spatial node with my current power, perhaps we can break through space and enter." "I'm talking about in reality," interrupted Long Chen. "Fine. In reality, there's no chance you can find the spatial node. It's Pill Valley's top secret. Outsiders can't possibly learn it," said Evil Moon. "So you can't do it." "What do you mean, I can't do it?" snorted Evil Moon angrily. "You're the one who doesn't even know the spatial node's location. It's like you're asking me to kill someone but you don't even know where they are." The so-called spatial node was where the minor world connected with the martial heaven continent. As long as Evil Moon could reach that spot, it might be able to tear through space to enter it. "If you don't want to die, then get out of my way." Just at this moment, a coarse and tyrannical voice rang out from the distance. Long Chen turned to see a golden-horned bull pulling an ancient carriage through the sky. That bull was actually a 12th-rank magical beast. Quite a few experts were flying through this region, and some of them came from the same sect. When they saw that bull, they hastily evaded it. However, unexpectedly, the bull was too fast, and even though they avoided its body, they weren't able to avoid the astral winds that roared off of it. They were blown back miserably. Some of them even coughed up blood. That bull was advancing at full power. Its master was clearly doing this on purpose. Courting death. Those experts were enraged, and they took out their weapons. Divine light lit up as they attacked the carriage, wanting to teach the person inside a lesson. Boom. Ripples spread along the carriage. It actually had a powerful barrier that blocked their attacks. Courting death. A furious shout rang out from within, and the carriage came to a stop. A large man came out. He had bushy eyebrows, a beard, and a mustache. He smacked a rod that he had at those people. A dragon's cry actually rang out, causing Long Chen to jump. That fellow actually possessed a trace of dragon blood. This fellow's dragon blood isn't pure. You see that rune on his forehead? It should be the mark of the barbarian dragon race. The barbarian dragon race only possesses brute power but no divine abilities. They're a group of brainless fellows, explained Evil Moon. Boom. The large man's rod caused space to explode and sent those disciples tumbling back, coughing up blood. With just this one attack, even a dozen Genius Life Star disciples were unable to endure. None of them had used their full power, but that man also hadn't summoned his manifestation. You're the Barbarian Dragon Palace's Man Batian, someone cried out in shock. Since you know who I am, you can scram, snorted Man Batian. Man Batian? Long Chen felt like he had heard that name. He racked his brain and suddenly slapped his leg. He remembered. Yi Lingshan had mentioned this person to him. He had once pursued Qi Fengxue but was refused. Then he had pursued Yi Lingshan, but she had ignored him. Back then, he had sworn that when he awakened his barbarian blood manifestation, he would marry both of them. Countless people had sneered at him for that. Later on, he had vanished. People all thought that it had been a farce, but recently, he had reappeared and defeated consecutive geniuses without suffering a single defeat. Furthermore, his sect, the Barbarian Dragon Palace, also surfaced. When someone investigated their history, they were stunned. The Barbarian Dragon Palace had been famous many years ago. Its experts had the inheritance of the barbarian dragons. They were immensely powerful. It was said that back when true immortal Jiaoqi was alive, the two of them had clashed. No one knew the final result, but since the two of them were still alive, outsiders guessed that they might be equally matched. Although Man Batian had only recently come out, his fame was growing rapidly. He was a tyrannical existence amongst the neutral powers. Other than that, due to his bloodline, he was very unreasonable and would kill people as soon as they displeased him. He was famous and infamous. Those people were startled when they heard that name. A hint of fear appeared in their eyes. They cursed their bad luck at encountering such a garbage person. Either fight or fuck off, snorted Man Batian, pointing his rod at those disciples. He spoke to them like they were ants. Man Batian, don't go too far, raged one disciple. A warrior could be killed but not humiliated. This person went too far. It was clearly his carriage that had smashed into them, and now he even shouted at them to scram. Die. That disciple had just shouted when Man Batian turned toward him, smashing his rod. That rod compressed space, sealing the disciple's movements. The disciple was shocked to find that he couldn't move. Just like that, the disciple exploded along with his weapon. The others were startled and infuriated. This Man Batian was as unreasonable and tyrannical as the story said. Since you don't scram, you can die. Seeing those disciples panicking, Man Batian laughed. His bull's two golden horns suddenly began to shine. A wave of divine light shot out of the horns, striking the disciples like a mountain. Those disciples summoned their manifestations, but despite going all out, they were heavily injured. Two of them had their bodies explode, and they fled with only their Yuan spirits. Those disciples instantly vanished from sight as they fled. Man Batian laughed as if bullying them had been delightful. Brother, help me out. Just at this moment, a hand clapped onto his shoulder. Man Batian jumped in shock. He turned back, but before he could even see who was behind him, a hand slapped his face. He seemed to hear the sounds of bones breaking and then lost consciousness. Long Chen carried Man Batian to the carriage and then glanced at the bull indifferently. As soon as Long Chen looked at it, it stiffened, all its previous majestic air vanishing. If you don't want to become steak, you'll listen obediently, said Long Chen. He dragged the unconscious Man Batian into the carriage. Upon entering, he saw that it was very luxurious. The floor was actually padded with the fur of a 12th-rank magical beast, and there were over 10 female cultivators on a wooden bed, not an inch of thread on their bodies. They stared in shock at Long Chen. Senior apprentice brother Long Chen. One of those women recognized Long Chen. Then realizing that she wasn't wearing anything, she blushed, covering herself up. Long Chen hastily left the carriage, taking out a spatial ring and tossing it inside. He told them to put on clothes first. Through their explanation, he learned that they came from various sections. They had been captured by Man Batian. When they had refused his advances, he had captured them in his anger. Fortunately, they had run into Long Chen before Man Batian could do anything further to them. Sorry. Long Chen reached out and patted each woman on the back of their head. They instantly fell unconscious. His spiritual strength entered their minds, erasing their memories of Man Batian and seeing him here. They were also geniuses who were going to attend the Brahma secret realm, so he had to do this. After erasing their memories, he placed them in different locations. That way, they could act like nothing had happened. As for Man Batian, Long Chen hadn't been planning on killing him, but after seeing those women he had directly done a soul search and learned just how many wicked things he had done. After that, Long Chen directly killed him. He began to change his appearance, dressing himself up as Man Batian. After confirming that there were no mistakes, a blaze of flames turned Man Batian into ashes. If you don't want to die, then get out of the way. I, Man Batian, am coming. Long Chen suddenly cleared his throat and laughed, sending the carriage flying straight toward Pill Valley. Out of the way, out of the way. Are you blind? Long Chen sent the carriage barreling through the air in a domineering fashion, forcing aside the other experts. They angrily cursed him, but then Long Chen also got angry, cursing back, Are you looking to die? Who dares to block the path of Man Batian? Come out and I'll make sure your deaths are quick. When those disciples heard that name, their hearts shook. Although Man Batian's fame wasn't too great at this point, quite a few people had heard it. He was a vicious character and completely unreasonable. He would kill people at the slightest anger, hence, they had no desire to draw his ire. Those people didn't say a word, simply allowing Long Chen's carriage to pass by. Only once he was gone did they start cursing him. Fuck, this feeling really is nice. Long Chen laughed. Although these people weren't all his enemies, they definitely couldn't be counted as friends. However, it seems that people like him don't live too long. Long Chen rubbed the rod in his hand. This had been Man Batian's divine item. It had actually been refined from a barbarian dragon's horn and could be activated with the strength of dragon blood. If someone else obtained it, they wouldn't be able to use it. However, Long Chen possessed Azure Dragon Essence blood, and the barbarian dragon wasn't worth anything in front of the Azure Dragon. I didn't think things would go so smoothly. So even the heavens are blind sometimes? Long Chen had a tablet on his waist. It had Pill Valley's mark, and this mark had blood runes within it. Through a soul search, Long Chen learned that this tablet was a way for Pill Valley to avoid others entering the Brahma secret realm. People were given 2 tablets. One was given back to Pill Valley after being bound with blood. Upon arriving at Pill Valley, they would check the tablets to see that their blood matched. For someone else, wanting to sneak in like this would be courting death. But when Long Chen had slain Man Batian, he had Evil Moon extract a portion of Man Batian's essence blood and soul. That way, even when he was examined, he could pass through easily. It seemed that things in his life rarely went this smoothly, so Long Chen felt quite refreshed. Of course, part of that was how arrogant he could act as he blasted through the people in his path. On his way, he accidentally killed a few experts from the corrupt path and Shen beasts by crashing into them. In the face of other people's furious roar, he simply cursed them back and scared them away. However, the thing that surprised him was that on his way, he sensed several powerful auras that were no weaker than Hua Lion and true immortal Jiaoqi back when they had been alive. What is going on? How could so many powerful experts have appeared? Long Chen couldn't help frowning. Those experts belonged to various powers, including the ancient races, the corrupt path, the ancient family alliance, and the Shen beasts. He also sensed a familiar air as he flew. It was the air of the Bloodkill Hall's assassins. Their auras had been memorized by the 9-star hegemon body art, and he would sense them as soon as he was close. However, he could only sense their general existence. He couldn't pinpoint their exact location, meaning that the Bloodkill Hall actually had more skillful assassins aside from their 3 divine emissaries. Or, did this indicate that their Dong Mingyu had come? Fuck, how did so many unknown experts suddenly appear? Did I end up jumping into a den of wolves? The closer he got to Pill Valley, the more people he saw. Many of them were lone travelers with shocking auras. One man had a grand aura. With each step, space twisted and he would reappear hundreds of miles away. It seemed he was currently practicing some kind of cultivation art. There was another person enveloped with divine light, and it was impossible to see his face. Sword light formed a ring behind him. The sword chi around him was oppressive. Just looking at him gave people a stabbing pain. There was also someone like Long Chen being pulled by a 12th-rank magical beast while sitting in a carriage. The carriage blocked their aura, but when they looked over, Long Chen felt a sensation of danger. There's no need to be so shocked. Just from Man Batian's memories, you can see that there are still many sects hidden within the martial heaven continent. However, they're more low-key and haven't revealed themselves. They've been secretly developing for thousands or even tens of thousands of years. They've avoided having to fight with others, lying in wait precisely for the current great era to come. A world naturally goes through periods of prosperity and decline. Spring goes and winter comes. When the winter comes, life forms hibernate so that they can come back out in spring. The martial heaven continent definitely isn't as simple as what you see. If I hadn't felt that this place looked weak, I also wouldn't have come here, and then I wouldn't have encountered Yun Shang, said Evil Moon hatefully. After killing Evil Moon, Yun Shang had reforged its body and soul into a weapon, resulting in Yun Shang giving it the name of Dragonbone Evil Moon. Being with me will let you make your comeback, guaranteed Long Chen. Tisich, you don't even know how you're going to advance any further. If you don't figure out a way, it won't be long before you're crushed. Just seeing your 108,000 astral spaces, I've given up any hope. Your cultivation technique is too monstrous. Evil Moon didn't have any hope for Long Chen. The 9-star hegemon body art was too difficult. However, it then suddenly said, actually, I do have a method for you to rapidly grow stronger without medicinal pills. Really? Don't con me. Long Chen was delighted. Perhaps the dark evil dragon race had some divine ability that could help him. It's to eat. You can eat just like wild, absorbing their energy with swallow the heavens, devour the earth. You want me to constantly eat magical beasts? Long Chen hesitated. If he couldn't find medicinal pills, then perhaps this was his only choice. No, for you, eating magical beasts is useless. Then, you want me to eat people? Yes. Swallow the heavens, devour the earth was originally a technique for absorbing energy from the same source as the user. After being devoured, it will strip them of their energy and merge that energy with yours. That's the only way for you to absorb the energy of their Yuan spirit, essence blood, and soul dash. Stop. That's definitely impossible. Long Chen interrupted Evil Moon. Eating magical beasts was one thing. If he had no other choice, he could accept it. But eating people was definitely unacceptable. You're a hypocrite. What difference is there between killing people and eating people? The evil dragon race relies on eating each other to get stronger and survive, but your human race kills each other not because you need to but simply to satisfy your desires. Although a portion are killed due to crisis or imminent danger, the majority are only killed to satisfy your desire to subdue others. The human race kills many times more of its fellow humans than my evil dragon race eats each other, snorted Evil Moon. Alright, don't try to talk philosophy with me. I can't accept that condition. As for why, I don't know either, but if you really need a reason, call it instinct. As a human, I will kill to protect my family, but I won't go devouring humans. It's impossible. Long Chen shook his head, not letting Evil Moon continue this topic. Long Chen respected Evil Moon, and he knew it had good intentions, but that wasn't something he could accept. Boom. Just as they were speaking, Long Chen's carriage shook intensely. His golden bull had actually been killed by a single punch from someone. Startled, Long Chen looked out to see someone from the Xian beasts blocking his path. That person's entire body was covered in black fur. He also had a rod in his hand, and he pointed it at the carriage. Man Batian, come out and face your death. The disturbance here drew over many of the surrounding experts. The Xian beasts Xiong Tianba. Someone let out a startled cry upon recognizing this black-furred expert. One of the ancient family alliance's experts said, "This Xiong Tianba is the descendant of the great earthen bear king race. Legend is that the great earthen bear race was so powerful in the ancient era that they were given the name of king. Their power is limitless." Really? Then whose power would be greater, his or true immortal Jiaoqi? That ancient family alliance expert didn't know how to reply to that. There was no way to compare. All he knew of the great earthen bear king race's power was limited to historical records. Someone from the ancient races said, if the two of them were to actually fight, they should be equally matched. But in terms of pure power, this Xiong Tianba should have an edge. True immortal Jiaoqi relied on the power of his bloodline, which can be used up in the end, but Xiong Tianba's power comes from the earth. As long as he is on the ground, his energy will never run out. If he's so powerful, why haven't I ever heard of him? Do you think that the great Xian beasts are like the human race, announcing themselves to the world as soon as they have the slightest bit of power? They knew how to be low-key. That ancient race expert sneer immediately caused quite a few expressions to sink. It had to be known that 90% of the experts here were part of the human race. For someone to openly curse the human race like this, they were enraged. If this wasn't the wrong place for it, they would have killed that idiot. However, of all the experts here, not all of them were afraid of the ancient races and the Xian beasts. Someone responded, for people like you, the only thing to do is bully you like Long Chen does. Once Long Chen beats all your teeth out, you won't insult the human race every time you open your mouth. This person came from a neutral sect. Originally, he had no enmity with the Xian beasts or the ancient races. However, this person's mouth was just too hateful. To suck up to the Xian beasts, did you need to trample on the human race? Did he not realize that the human race was his ancestor? Yes, they're truly low-key. Once Long Chen even killed his way into their headquarters and took all their resources, they didn't make a sound. So low-key. Added someone else. You. That ancient race expert was about to curse back when he suddenly noticed that he was surrounded by experts of the human race. He swallowed his curses. Seeing that he didn't dare to continue talking, those experts couldn't be bothered with him. They turned back to watch the fight. At this time, Long Chen had come out of his carriage. He walked toward that expert of the Xian beasts. Now there will be a good show to watch. One's Man Batian, one's Xiong Tianba. Let's see who's stronger, said someone excitedly. Man Batian came from a neutral sect that had been in hiding. He had no relationship with anyone, and he was known as a tyrannical figure. There were already a few stories of his infamy. As for Xiong Tianba, he came from the Xian beasts who always looked down on the human race. If the two of them clashed, it would be a perfect case of irritating fellows fighting each other. The others were quite happy to watch such a show. You killed my mount. It seems I'll need you to replace it. Long Chen suddenly shot forward, smashing his rod at Xiong Tianba. Man Batian, you might be able to be arrogant in front of others, but you aren't qualified to act like that in front of the Xian beasts. Xiong Tianba roared and his rod also smashed toward Long Chen. When those two rods collided, a heaven-shaking explosion erupted and divine light burst forward. The large Xiong Tianba was actually blown into the distance. Heavens, in terms of power, Man Batian is actually greater than Xiong Tianba. Long Chen sneered, a little bear also dares to act this wild? In the future, just obediently pull my carriage. Long Chen's current power and fighting style were identical to Man Batian's. That was the only way to avoid other people's suspicions. This imitation was quite simple for Long Chen. Man Batian's energy stemmed from the barbarian dragon, and he didn't have any flashy techniques. Long Chen also liked that kind of fighting style that relied on overwhelming his opponents with power. As soon as they clashed, he knew that in terms of power, Xiong Tianba was a far cry from Man Batian. Man Batian was truly powerful. He definitely wasn't stronger than true immortal Jiaoqi, but he would only be the slightest bit weaker. The reason why Long Chen had crushed him so easily was because his azure dragon blood suppressed his barbarian dragon power. Power of the earth, Bear King slaughters the heavens. Xiong Tianba's feet touched the ground, and his black fur suddenly became the color of the earth. His aura also completely transformed. How can a bear slaughter the heavens? Sneered Long Chen, smashing out his rod. Boom. However, this time, the earth didn't explode. Instead, it was like all the surrounding land had become one entity, resisting his strike. Long Chen was slightly surprised. This Xiong Tianba actually had some ability. Xiong Tianba was extracting the energy of the earth. His manifestation appeared behind him, and endless mountains appeared within it. They were crystal clear. He's fully awakened his manifestation? Boom. Long Chen and Xiong Tianba were forced back by each other's power. Man Batian, do you see? My manifestation has already fully awakened. Even in terms of comprehension, my Xian beasts are superior to your human race. I'll let you experience the power of a fully awakened manifestation today. Xiong Tianba laughed wildly. The mountains within his manifestation began to shudder. This was no longer just an image, but it was its own world. So that's the case. No wonder you can only fully awaken your manifestation upon reaching the Life Star realm, muttered Long Chen to himself as he looked at Xiong Tianba's manifestation. The world within the manifestation was illusionary. But when a Life Star expert condensed their astral space, it would become the foundation for the manifestation and could transform the manifestation from illusory to real. The manifestation behind Xiong Tianba was a reflection of the world within his astral space. That was why it looked so real. He was fully in control of his world energy because his manifestation was his world. With a fully awakened manifestation, he was a true Empyrean. The mountains within his manifestation rumbled. Divine runes began to appear on the ground, sending energy toward Xiong Tianba. He's using the power of his manifestation to gather the energy of the very martial heaven continent. How can anyone fight him when he controls that much power? Exclaimed one of the ancient family alliance's experts. Who would have thought that the first person on the continent to awaken their manifestation would actually be from the Xian beasts? They'll probably brag about this for a lifetime, sighed one of the neutral camp's experts. Both the ancient races and the Xian beasts despise the human race, and they would directly scoff at the weaker ones, explicitly saying the human race was garbage. Now that Xiong Tianba had actually awakened his manifestation, they would never forget about this. This would be another thing they would hold over the human race. Is awakening a manifestation really so amazing? Everyone look well. If I even have to use my manifestation, it will count as my loss, sneered Long Chen. His rod suddenly rumbled as he activated his azure dragon blood. A dragon cry resounded through the air. He was activating this divine item with the power of the azure dragon, and the power it unleashed was greater than what Xiong Batian could hope to unleash. Boom! The ground exploded. The mighty and arrogant Xiong Tianba was sent tumbling back. Do you think the power of the barbarian dragon is something a little bear can block? Taking out my manifestation would be bullying you. Just obediently pull my carriage. A wave of dust swirled around Long Chen. Although he hadn't summoned the azure dragon battle armor, he was already using the power of his dragon blood. He began unleashing a torrent of attacks at Xiong Tianba. With each clash, Xiong Tianba was sent tumbling back. The ground shook with each step, and the earth exploded with each of Long Chen's attacks. What's going on? Was Man Batian always so powerful? Even someone with a fully awakened manifestation can't stop him? Something seems off. If Xiong Tianba fully awakened his manifestation, why wouldn't the Xian beasts announce it? That's right, that's not their style. I understand. Look closely at his manifestation. He didn't awaken it naturally. He must have used some outside power to forcibly awaken it. Look, there's no air of life within it. A manifestation was like a painting, but once it was awakened, it had its own life. Xiong Tianba's manifestation looked alive, but it lacked an actual air of life. It was stiff. There's no blessing of the heavenly Daos either. So he only managed to awaken it with some outside force. No wonder it didn't increase his power that much. What a greedy fellow. This Xiong Tianba was a genius who could stand at the peak, but due to his impatience, he's ruined his future. He'll only be half an Empyrean for the rest of his life. There's no way for him to fix his manifestation. Once everyone else's manifestations begin to awaken, he'll be trash. Stupid. Xiong Tianba roared and suddenly transformed into a giant bear. Wielding his rod with both hands, his fur began to shine. The runes that had been spreading on the ground were suddenly all sucked up by him. He smashed his rod at Long Chen. He's gone berserk. He directly summoned his true body. Startled cries rang out. After being suppressed time and time again, Xiong Tianba was actually staking everything on one attack. Xiong Tianba's body was gigantic. His rod was like a heaven-splitting pillar, smashing down mercilessly. This was his strongest attack that not only contained all his power but also all his fury. He was originally a peak genius with top-grade talent. However, he wasn't patient enough. He wanted to be the first Empyrean on the continent with a fully awakened manifestation. Disregarding the warnings of his seniors, he had actually forcibly merged the power of his astral space with his manifestation, wanting to quicken the awakening. Awakening the manifestation was something that had to happen naturally. There was a sequence to it, and he was defying that sequence. Even if he was only a single step away, forcibly trying to awaken his manifestation was no good. Although he had succeeded, his manifestation had not received the recognition of the world. In other words, his manifestation was truly and completely crippled. He would never be able to fix his ruined manifestation, and he would be doomed to be second-rate for the rest of his life. Right now, all he could do was bully others before they also awakened their manifestations. He had to hurry and crush everyone else while he could. To have ruined your future prospects because of your greed and advancing prematurely was something that would drive anyone crazy. Xiong Tianba was filled with resentment, but because he caused all of this by himself, he couldn't resent anyone else. Originally, he had been planning on defeating Man Batian today because Man Batian had bullied some experts from the Shen beasts. His other goal was to make a name for himself before others managed to grow up. However, his luck wasn't good. This fake Man Batian's combat power was absolutely terrifying. Furthermore, he hadn't even summoned his manifestation. Of course, the truth was that Long Chen couldn't summon Man Batian's manifestation. Even if he tried to fake it, he would immediately be sold out considering that he couldn't absorb heavenly Tao energy. He said that he wouldn't use it only to give himself cover. However, this cover ended up being viewed as absolute disdain from Man Batian. Man Batian actually wasn't treating Xiong Tianba seriously at all. In his rage, Xiong Tianba risked everything in one attack. Boom! Xiong Tianba's giant rod smashed into the ground, causing the world to shake. His power was truly terrifying, and even the distant experts were unable to stay steady. They were blown back. Cracks spread along the ground. Mountains crumbled, and giant boulders were flying through the air. It was like a scene from the end of the world. What terrifying power! The distant experts were gobsmacked. This kind of power was something that would blow anyone to smithereens. As expected, the Shen beast's power was inconceivable. However, when the wind settled, everyone was shocked to find that they didn't see Man Batian's figure within the ruined earth. He exploded? People were stunned, but this didn't seem likely. Based on the power that Man Batian had released, this attack should have at most heavily injured him. There was no way that he wouldn't have at least an intact corpse. Xiong Tianba looked all around. He was stunned. When his rod had been about to smash Man Batian had suddenly vanished. His attack had missed. Suddenly, Xiong Tianba let out a roar and smashed his rod behind him. At this moment, Man Batian appeared there, his rod smashing toward Xiong Tianba. His rod grew until it was a giant pillar equal in size to Xiong Tianba's rod. Boom! Their two rods clashed once more. Xiong Tianba's giant figure was actually sent tumbling across the ground. He bounced on the ground a dozen times, flipping over and over again. Each time, the ground shook intensely. Finally, Xiong Tianba managed to stabilize himself. He suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood. Due to his manifestation not being recognized by heaven and earth, he was unable to lock down Long Chen with his heavenly Tao energy. As for using spiritual strength, there was no way that someone from the Shen beasts could use that to lock down Long Chen. So there had been no need for Long Chen to receive his attack. Long Chen didn't want to receive such an attack either. Even he would have to suffer a bit to take it head-on. Long Chen had used the celestial lightning body blink to get away, but he had used it very subtly, and with space twisting so wildly from that attack, others had been unable to tell. He had then gone around Xiong Tianba's giant body to strike him. At that time, Xiong Tianba had just launched an all-out attack and hadn't fully recovered. As a result, his hasty block didn't even have 70% of his power in it. What a blind bear. You can't even hit me. If you're this weak, you're not even fit to fight me, sneered Long Chen. His rod once more whipped toward Xiong Tianba. Xiong Tianba roared furiously, but he was forced to retreat time and time again. This time, Long Chen didn't even give him a chance to unleash a powerful attack like before. Seeing Xiong Tianba being crushed like this, the surrounding experts sighed. Xiong Tianba was truly pitiful. His manifestation looked like it had awakened, but it had not received the recognition of the world. It only allowed him to use his world energy to its full potential, but he was unable to merge it with his heavenly Tao energy to unleash even greater power. He was probably only slightly stronger than he had been before awakening his manifestation, but he had lost all his future prospects. Xiong Tianba was constantly absorbing energy from the land, ensuring that he wouldn't run out of energy. Even as he was forced to retreat miserably, it was very difficult for Long Chen to actually beat him. This fellow's too powerful. If he really awakened his manifestation properly, what could I do to him? Long Chen thought to himself. If his manifestation was truly awakened, just how powerful would he be? Little brute, shouldn't you hurry up and surrender? You killed my mount, so you can replace it. Otherwise, your life will end here. Do you think you can order around the great Shen beasts? Fuck off, roared Xiong Tianba. Flames almost burst out of his eyes. However, he didn't even have any ability to retaliate. He could only bitterly endure. Since you want to be pig-headed, that's fine. I'll be eating bear meat tonight. Long Chen's attacks grew sharper and sharper. However, he still used the techniques that Man Batian was most skilled in. The experts watching had no doubt that he was Man Batian. Barbarian Dragon Heavenly Twister. 18 dragon-shaped figures flew out of Long Chen's rod, transforming into a giant twister that attacked Xiong Tianba. This strange move caught Xiong Tianba off guard. He was instantly sucked into it and then into the air. Not good. Xiong Tianba's expression changed. Having left the ground, he was unable to absorb any more energy. Since he wasn't recognized by the heavenly Taos, he had lost his support. Coiling Dragon's 18 staves. Long Chen followed up with another attack. His rod twisted and turned, seeming to become 18 separate rods that attacked from 18 different angles. Banging sounds mixed with the sound of bones breaking rang out. Xiong Tianba coughed up blood. Man Batian's so powerful. Even without using his manifestation, he managed to defeat Xiong Tianba. People's hearts shook. No one had thought that Man Batian was so terrifying. Just as Long Chen was launching consecutive attacks, a dozen attacks shot toward him. Experts from the Shen beasts were actually interfering. You want to fight in a group? Fine, I'll accompany you. Long Chen laughed, his staff unleashing a wave of light that blasted apart those attacks. Like a devil, Long Chen began to attack the newcomers. He knew that Xiong Tianba wasn't someone he could kill here. If he did, it would only cause trouble. If his identity was exposed, that would be even more trouble. However, a bunch of little ants like these newcomers? They could be killed. Brother man, please stop. Suddenly, a figure appeared, tearing through space. He blocked Long Chen's path. Long Chen narrowed his eyes. This person wasn't someone that he knew, but Man Batian knew him. With Evelmun's help, Long Chen had managed to get a complete set of his memories. Through those memories, he knew that this person was Lu Zichuan, a genius of the Yin-Yang Sword Sect, a neutral power. Just like the Barbarian Dragon Palace, the Yin-Yang Sword Sect was an ancient sect that had been in hiding for so long that others had forgotten about their existence. They only appeared once the Great Era had come. Lu Zichuan had a pair of swords on his back. One was black and one was white. They were known as the Yin-Yang dual swords. When he used them, he could manifest the Tao before him. The legends were quite terrifying. It seemed that the Yin-Yang Sword Sect had a slight relationship with the Barbarian Dragon Palace. As for Man Batian and Lu Zichuan, the two of them had even exchanged pointers. But that time, Man Batian had lost. Or rather than saying that he had lost, it was more accurate that Man Batian had retreated to avoid losing. Lu Zichuan's Yin-Yang dual swords were too strange, and he was unable to break through their defenses. They hadn't been allowed to go all out either to avoid harming the friendship between their sections. In truth, Man Batian knew that he had lost, so he had been itching for another battle with Lu Zichuan. What, Brother Lu, are you thinking of stopping me? Long Chen's aura began to rise in preparations for a fight. He was facing Lu Zichuan with Man Batian's character. I'm not a match for Brother Man. I'm just here to act as a mediator. Since the Brahma secret realm is about to open, we should consider what's important and what's not. There's no deep enmity between everyone, so why bother fighting to the death? Said Lu Zichuan. Oof, this stupid bear killed my mount. How can I spare him? Well, since Brother Lu has spoken up for you, I can give you face. But next time you dare to be rude to me, I really will be having some bear meat. After saying that, without even looking at the blood-stained Xiong Tianba, Long Chen walked into his carriage. Although there was no mount, the carriage activated on its own and flew away. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.